This is the One Piece Podcast, episode 580 for the week of Sunday, July 28th, 2019. My name is Zach.
My name is Ed.
And happy birthday, Ed.
Thank you, Zach.
Is this the first time? I think this is the first time we've recorded on said birthday. So, yeah, congrats.
I mean, we did change days that we recorded on, but like after 7 years, it's got to happen at least once. We probably changed the day of the week.
Yeah, I'd have to think. We have lots of great guests on today. Grant will be joining us later to talk about his experience through Marineford. So for anyone who does not want any spoilers past Marineford, you want to skip to that segment. But we have on today's episode, as usual, very special guest. He is the translator for One Piece in Shonen Jump and Manga Plus. We have Stephen Paul with us. How's it going, Stephen?
Great. Doing very good. Thank you.
That's fantastic. I'm very happy to hear that. We also have from Crunchyroll, we have Dan Dockery returning. How's it going, Dan?
Super good.
That sounds superb. We also have, he's an Eisner Award nominated artist and author. We have with us Joey Weiser. How's it going, Joey?
Good. Just been watching Jackie Chan movies today, so I'm pumped, ready for shards of glass everywhere.
In character, Joey, in character. And finally, joining us again, we have Joe. How's it going, Joe?
It's going pretty good. I'm happy to be back.
Yeah. So first of all, I want to, mention I guess an announcement. We did announce this on Twitter. Alex was at Otakon this weekend, which I believe is just wrapping up as we speak. And he got to interview Sabo's voice actor, Toru Furuya, at Otakon. And he said it was great and fantastic. And we're going to have that interview on the podcast at not the next manga break, but probably the one after that, along with the very overdue interview we have with Ace's voice actor, Toshio Furukawa. So super looking forward to that.
That's so cool. And Furuya
so cool.
tweeted out some photos, including one of him posing with Alex, which was really cool.
Yeah, and I think in there saying it was for web TV or web radio.
Yeah, it was a list of the web-based like media outlets that he was doing stuff with, and he was commenting about how like, oh my God, they were asking me all these very obscure series that he was part of.
Great.
So,
like Gundam?
I don't think it was Gundam, but yeah.
I think both, probably. But, the one thing that American anime press is very good at doing is asking guests, especially voice actors, about super obscure roles they did that they definitely don't remember about. Not only that, but I know, Dan, you have a little news on your end that you wanted to announce.
I do. As Zach just introduced me, I write and edit for Crunchyroll, and not today, because today was one of the lead up episodes to the One Piece Stampede movie, and not next week because that's another episode leading up to the One Piece Stampede movie, but that next Sunday, when we finally return back to Wano, I will be starting the official Crunchyroll One Piece anime recap, which I'm super excited for.
Isn't that 2 weeks?
Yeah.
What? Yeah, it's 2 weeks of filler, so there's still filler next week.
No, I mean,
right.
I
That's
know
what he said.
this today, and then next week I'm not going to do it.
Okay, gotcha.
Because it'd be weird to be like, hey, this doesn't really mean anything to Wano or whatever. But after that, it's going to be something super cool. We've done it for other series before, but I've been like, oh, what if we did it for One Piece? I've talked about that show a few times. It'd be kind of cool. This little show called One Piece. We could promote it. But I'm super excited to do that and go in depth into the anime and also look at fan reactions and stuff and kind of do a this week in One Piece thing where I take all the news stories and put them all in one handy dandy place that you can look at on Sunday in case you missed anything. So I'm really excited about that.
Woo! Yeah, and Dan, you've been putting together those quizzes, which I have some qualms about. Yes, Chopper is my best friend, but
Okay.
I don't understand why I should be on Thriller Bark as part of the Gecko Moria Pirates. Uh, eh, eh.
No one deserves that, but
No,
it
but
happens.
somehow, according to your quiz, I do. Anyway, you could. That's all a Crunchyroll. you could see which crew you belong to. And if you'll probably end up in a better place than me. A haunted crew. What else do we have to talk about? Oh yeah, so Dan is part of a slew of amazing guests we're gonna have all month long this August. We have Nate Ming, formerly of Crunchyroll. He's going to be on next Sunday. We have Abby Denton. She's going to be on August 11th. We have Caleb, the translator for Dr. Stone, My Hero Academia, Dragon Ball Super, World Trigger, and more. He's going to be on August 18th. And since he does Dr. Stone, even though there wasn't much translation work involved in that, in the Boichi one shot, we thought we would talk a little bit about it since it's kind of a collusion of worlds, so to speak. There, and we're gonna end the month of August with Ein, who is a mainstay in the One Piece community, dating back to the early Arlong Park days, way before my time, even I think. So yeah, that's all coming soon to the One Piece podcast, but we got a lot to talk about. As Dan alluded to, the anime recap is we're going to also be taking a week off here. And I think we're going to do both of these weird side story episodes next week with Sam. But today we got a manga recap of chapter 950, whose title is A Soldier's Dream. And we also have Grant's segment going through Marineford and Piece Together. So you guys ready to get started?
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's go.
This is the manga recap for chapter 950, A Soldier's Dream. You can read this chapter and all chapters of One Piece the same time they come out in Japan, for free, globally, in English and in Spanish, either at shonenjump.viz.com, that's just in English, and mangaplus.shueisha.co.jp, that's in both English and Spanish, since I know we have a lot of polyglots listening out there. So, Ed, what's going on? I'm very excited about this cover story.
Yeah.
Also, what about the front of Shonen Jump?
Oh yeah, I forgot about the front of Shonen Jump. That is a good point, Joe. We're in part 2 of our 2-part. Now I know why you mentioned this. Of our 2-part. For those who don't know, Joe is a fan of. Is it Kid or Sabo? Law. She's a fan of Law. Ed, do you have that in front of you?
I do not.
Okay, so it's Luffy and staring menacingly in the other direction is I'll go by size. Law, Sabo, Hancock, and Lucci with Hattori on top of his hat.
It's Sabo's Wano hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're all in
Yeah.
Wano garb, except Lucci, who I think is just in his regular garb.
Yep. And
Okay.
and the pigeon.
Yeah, and this is
Mhm.
part 2 of the 2-part spread. I was expecting the rest of the Straw Hats, so this went way in a different direction than I was expecting.
I think
So
these
I
are
guess
like-
it's a stampede thing.
Yeah.
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 It was interesting. Chow actually shared a post earlier that pointed out if you have both covers side by side, the first person, Zoro and Law, are like the swordsmen of the worst generation. Then there's like the aristocratic slash like anti like establishment person. Then
Wait,
there's the
who's
beauty.
the aristocratic person on the Straw Hat crew? I don't have the
Sanji.
other one.
Sanji, because he used to be prince.
He is.
Oh yeah, he is. He is a bit of a, aristocrat.
Plus they're blonde. And then there's the
Maybe that's
beauty,
why.
and then there's like the more like dark past type character with Robin and Lucci, and I thought that was kind of an
Robin.
interesting parallel.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
Robin and
interesting.
Lucci have their own thing going on there too. I don't know what I was implying. Ed, what's going on the cover page?
The cover page is limited cover series number 24, Gang Bedges, Oh My Family. Volume 2. I went to see my twin sister Lola, and Capone is no longer the captain of the ship. He has to take orders.
I thought you were going to quote another one of your favorite family voices for that title.
Oh,
My family.
that one's usually Steve, actually.
Yeah. If
is he
Capone
doing
were the
it?
one
Okay.
saying that, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone always asks me, what spin-off would you like from the One Piece series? And Oda is giving me the answer here. We mentioned this last time. I was not expecting this, and I'm so happy. I'm just so happy.
Yeah.
It's great, and
love-
I love that
yeah.
they like right off the bat are like, we're gonna go see Lola, because that's all last arc. It was like, what about Lola? What about Lola?
Yeah.
What about Lola?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
super excited.
I love this ABC Family original series.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gang Bitches, Oh My Family.
TGI Friday.
And this is just what he wants after that arc is more in-laws.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So one
he's
thing
you can always tell them apart because Lola has a gap in her teeth.
As
Oh
you-
yeah. Someone had some room for some dental work. I don't know. Okay, I think that's gonna do it for that, Dan. Unless anyone has any comments on that besides everything. I love that Capone's the one holding Pez there, by the way.
That's right, he's not the captain anymore.
He's such a good dad. Can we just
Yeah.
mention how great a dad Capone is? Dan, what's going on in the first page of the chapter?
So the first page, first panel is Kid looking furious. You want to fight against Kaido again, and then we get a really cool image. Something I've been waiting for is Kid's powers returning Magneto style. You want to join in with me? Are you crazy? And we see Luffy kind of taking the after effects of what happened in the last chapter. The metal comes in. You saw what happened. Clang, clang, clang to his arm. Oda somehow does it again with his giant metal hand to my partner. It's absolutely beautiful, and we don't deserve Oda.
I would have thought that was an assistant that drew that. But that could
Yeah,
No, that's Oda.
be- it's moving, isn't it? Yeah.
It took him 30 volumes to summon up the courage to do this again.
The thing I really love about this hand is the like subtle gray toning on the
Mhm.
his like palm and stuff, so that it really makes the fingers stand out. Really cool, and not like overly done.
Mhm.
Then we have more Kid. I'm sick of the Alliance, and we see Scratch Man and Basil. I don't trust anyone. Consider it a gift that I don't kill you right here. And Kid's leaving. More clank clank. Arm grows smaller. Let's go, Killer. Let's get our people back. We do things our own way. And then Killer's in the background. Still
Laughing it up.
yeah, still, he's not doing very well. Yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see what comes out of this. I like I knew that like I like Luffy partnering with Law, and but I'm kind of glad that Kid is like, yeah, I did like an alliance thing. It didn't work at all. So he's heading at it his own way, and I don't know. I think that's kind of cool. I'm glad that he wasn't just like jumping to be like, yeah, and I'm a Straw Hat now too.
Yeah, I'm really glad about that too.
No, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah, that doesn't really fit that character.
I kind of wonder if Oda like originally envisioned doing more with that alliance of characters, because it seemed like that was like a bit of a story response to Luffy and Law joining up, and it was like, oh snaps, these guys are joining up, and now there's like this sort of like the worst generation are sort of forming into certain groups, but then I don't think we really saw a lot out of this before. Now it's like, okay, well, Kid is out.
Kaido
so
literally jumped,
Yeah.
suicide
Well,
in
I
front
mean,
of them. Yeah.
We also can't do like 37 short films about Springfield, unfortunately.
Yeah.
There's 100
Yeah.
stories in this town.
Sure,
tell 'em all.
sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Go ahead, Ed.
All right, cool. So back excavation labor camp Udon after Kid leaves. So there's a discussion going on. Is it pirates? So the Straw Hat Man is a pirate just like Kaido? Yes, but no. Bigger but smaller. We can't trust him. Who knows when he'll betray us? Why would you bring us a pirate of all people? And this is Raizo speaking. Kawamatsu sort of standing also speaks here. And Raizo says, listen, the seas are vast and there are many kinds of pirates out there. If you interact with him, you'll understand that he does not lie. That man is the linchpin to the overthrow of Kaido. And again, Old Man Hyo has internal monologue, something that Luffy would never have.
I just want to say I think Hyo's the second person talking there,
he's the
which
one
makes
talking.
more sense since Kawamatsu doesn't know.
Oh yeah, he's tiny there.
It's hard to see. He is very tiny, yeah.
Compared to Kawamatsu. You thinking, oh dear, we need something more to convince them. At least they're lively again. So is it really true that you came here from 20 years in the past? You always looked old to begin with, Raizo. What if you just aged 20 years? With all the insults.
Yes, Raizo is an old Jewish man. Confirmed canon.
Yeah. So Hyo is thinking again. Where did the Straw Hat fellow go? And we hear over by, I guess this is like the guard area, the guard building.
Yeah, the tower.
Yeah,
they called it.
Tama, it's dangerous here. You shouldn't be. Sorry about this, big bro, but I'm glad to see you're all right. Momonosuke's like, no, he's not. He's dying.
Yeah, look at him. He's pretty rough.
His skin is falling, is drooping. He's skin and bones, and the skin's
Well,
falling off.
he looks like a mummy, which, if I recall, was the name of the.
He's apparently like literally on fire.
Was there a pun, Steven, to the mummy thing from last week? I wanted to ask you that. Well, because they like built it up so much. It's like, and the name of it is Mummy, and it's like, okay.
Yeah,
cool.
No, I had the same reaction. I was like,
oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah.
So Ninja Chopper is angry. He's like, no, don't touch him. I'm finding the antibody right now, or the right antibody now. What's the point of making a show of it not affecting you if you're just gonna hide it and suffer? I know the virus is killing you. Why don't you think about the consequences? Apologize to me. Chopper is getting very angry. Dari, hurts. Help me.
I love too that like Oda he uses such comic book logic here that just like Chopper just pulls out the beaker and the flasks and he's like, all right, I'm discovering the cure right now. That's
it's
all
his
you
ninja
need.
Powers.
Yeah. It's part of the ninja thing, obviously.
It's a mystery antibody.
Yeah.
Yep. Momonosuke continues. Luffy might be stupid, but he is truly extraordinary despite it. I could never do such a thing. And Luffy is speaking with more power and clarity.
I just want to mention that who is it? Super Ninja Clone, just as we're talking, posted, and this is One Piece right here.
Luffy
might be stupid, but he's truly extraordinary
already today. And I probably would have seen more if I hadn't blocked all sorts of people on like starting on Friday, because the new Twitter on desktop shows me all sorts of spoiler tweets about One Piece from people I don't follow. So now I have to block people I don't follow.
It comes out Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
got it.
And now Twitter thinks I want to see your tweets. They're all about spoilers on Fridays, and fuck off, Twitter.
Yeah.
Anyway. But Luffy retorts. He's like, after Momonosuke says, I could never do such a thing, he says, yeah, well, that's because you're stupid and cowardly and weak and a chicken and totally helpless. And you got a big butt. Your butt smells. I like to smell your own butt. Silence, insolent dog. That was not an invitation for you to add on. And Tama has to hold him back. Don't hit him or you'll catch it, Momo. But is that Luffy saying like, or is that Chopper saying, "Go on, Momo"? Like,
No, I think it's Luffy.
That's Luffy saying, "Come on, go over here and catch this virus."
I'll kick your ass. You're only 6 or something. I don't know.
No, but he's actually talking like, "Go on, Momo." The one they're all waiting for is you, and he pushes him out from behind the building, and
I
throws
wasn't
a rock
sure who
at him.
said that. I wasn't sure who said that originally, but yeah. Oh yeah, he throws a rock at him.
Throws a big boulder at him. It's like twice the size of the kid, and all the prisoners are like, as they sort of look back. That was a big text page.
Yeah. And Momo screeches to a halt, and then he realizes, everybody's looking at me, and all the samurai are there. And then it's like instant recognition that they all drop to their knees. And, Viggo Mortensen comes out, and he's like, my friend, you bow to no one. And they all fall to the ground around little Hobbit Momonosuke here. And as usual, Hyo is doing his internal monologue. I see what we were missing was a dream, something that lies beyond the battle. And they all say, it is good to see you alive and well.
By the way, Hyo would be such a great speaker if he ever said anything out loud that he was thinking.
Yeah. And so there's this is the magic trick, was that they didn't believe that the other guys had traveled through time, but they all recognized Momonosuke from when he was a child.
This whole speech here on the left too at the top is also Hyo?
No, that's Momonosuke.
No, because it says "Don't be afraid, Momonosuke" at the end of it, right? So wouldn't that be Hyo?
Well, if I read the text, you will see that it is Momonosuke.
Yeah. I see.
He's talking to himself like Ricky Henderson.
Meanwhile, in the big panel, I love the I don't know. I love the not just the image, but some of the details. Like I like this guy in the left corner who has like a huge sleeve tattoo. That's pretty cool. A little touch that Oda did there. So Momonosuke is thinking to himself, it's not me that I see reflected in their eyes. It must be my father, the great shadow cast by the Kozuki clan that supported Wano for all those years. It's never felt so heavy upon me until now. Don't be afraid, Momonosuke. So he realizes that that's what they see in him. They're not looking at, the 6-year-old Momonosuke. They are looking at, this is this is the remnant of the Kozuki clan. This is the reminder of the past before this like horrible nightmare that's been happening to them. And so he summons up his courage and he says, okay, everybody, just hear me out. I will tell you what happened on that, that horrible day and what we've been doing. And, it kind of gets yada yada, but basically he's going to explain exactly what happened with the, with the time travel stuff and how it is that they came to come back to Wano. And in the meantime, Kawamatsu, who we still haven't really had like a full, scene to appreciate on his own, says, well, it's good that he's fine, but now I have to go somewhere else. Don't worry, I'll rejoin the group before the battle. So presumably he's going off to see Hiyori, since that was the character that he was connected to via her flashback. But we don't know for sure. But he's got his own private business to do, and Razo's like, oh, okay. And that's the end of that.
So we move over to Curry, as we see in the little kidney bean shaped diagram of Wano here. And we see Shutenmaru or Ashura Doji saying, that this is 20 years for you. This is 20 years for you. And then he says, this is how hard it is to continue believing in legends, as insubstantial as the clouds. 10 years was as far as we could get. And we get these pictures of Kinemon and Dog Storm's face. But then we move on to this beautiful big panel as they're looking at all these graves. And he continues, they couldn't take it any longer. They headed to Onigashima and they all died. And so we see a lot of people who have lost their lives kind of due to impatience, waiting for someone to come and help them, or maybe thinking that they would never show up. And yeah, this panel is super great. Like, I love all the detail of the background and stuff. And a thing that I especially really love about this is how simple the like trees look, and the little like sakura or whatever on top of them plays really well with all of the like fine details. It's like a really cool
The trees
mixture.
are flat black. There's not textured.
Yeah, and the like flowers themselves.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a good contrast to the other location we'll see later in the chapter, kind of distinguishing like the different areas of Wano visually.
Yeah, totally. And so we are moving into a flashback here as we hear someone saying, "It's been 10 years. We're older now." And there's kind of a crowd of angry mooks yelling at Ashura Doji. If we have to wait 20, we'll be even weaker. And you want us to keep waiting for people who might never actually return. And so they're getting impatient, but Ashura Doji tries to implore them to trust in Kinemon and the others that they'll come back, and that they will have Lord Momonosuke with them.
I like the thing too that he does with Ashura Doji here. And at first I was like, oh, that's interesting that you can tell he's younger. And I was trying to figure out what it is. And then I realized it's that in all the present day things, Oda draws his eyes shaded. And in this one, they're not. And just that alone like makes him look a lot younger. Like he's more active in this.
His pecs are more defined.
That too.
So
I like the visual
implication. Forehead.
I like the visual implication that like this gravestone is talking now.
It's true. Those are the people. Those are the gravestones of the people that are speaking.
Yeah, they're even like kind of standing in the same. Yeah, that's a cool touch there. Steven, go ahead.
All right. So the flashback continues as we see the factories of Udon puffing their smoke away, and these warriors are saying, "Well, we won't follow Orochi, so we have nothing to eat. Die of illness before it ever comes to fighting." And then we kind of do this little like montage thing where, oh, here's the, Kaido's army is coming up with their weird little lizard things. You don't need to poison the water hole if you just bust up the well with a ball and chain. And they're burning the fields. People are running. Basically it's showing how complete the control over the countryside is. From the Kaido and Orochi, and the guys are running out of patience. They say, "We can't wait any longer, Shutemaru." And he's like, "Forget it. You're wasting your lives. We don't stand a chance unless we raise a full army with the Kozuki name." And the guys, they have a very sort of classic, like traditional Japanese warrior, sort of Viking warrior type of mentality here. They say, "Well, at least let me die properly with a katana in my hand. If it's going to happen one way or another, I might as well die as a samurai. Don't try to stop us." And then they continue, "Do you remember when we were just strapping boys, how we would scream to test our mettle?" And you have this little image of them jumping off a big rock into like a pond or a river or something. It's kind of a classic illustration. And he says, "After all, when people value themselves too much, they become cowards who take no risks." And he has this quote here: "Surrender your name and be as a child. Leap before you look. Remember the abbreviation. You raise your voice and shout, 'Tsunachi!'" And they have all the boats going off to battle as Ashura, he tried to stop them. He's got tears in his eyes and he's begging, come back here. But they're going off to what we know is their deaths. And so, yeah, this is this is coming full circle with the original reference to Tsunachi, which we first heard Momonosuke saying, claiming that he had heard it from Zoro, which was kind of a surprise at the time. And now we finally learn what this actually is. And I'm actually glad that we at Viz we had decided not to call it Snatch and to just use the initial thing, because it turned out to be a Japanese bit of wordplay. And initially, since we don't really do margin notes unless it's absolutely necessary, I initially had it as like, oh, okay, well, we had that saying that we used where, it means, so the original Japanese, su is to abandon or to discard, na is name, which works out, and then chi is like intelligence or wisdom or knowledge. And so like the idea, as you can kind of see from the text here, is that like you have to abandon all of the things that you are trying to like preserve, like your, I guess your honor, or not your honor, but like your standing or something. Like you just have to throw yourself into it and forget your conscience telling you that this is a bad idea or something like that. And I tried to like sort of leave it as the direct translation, just like, using what I would most directly put as English words for that stuff. And then I was like, yeah, but then like just having them be like, yes, this phrase, and it means sunachi, just like it didn't really work like visually on the page. I was just like, no, I kind of need to like figure out how to work this into English. And so that's how I came up with this thing, this little surrender your name and be as a child, which I wasn't like 100% satisfied with, but it turns out chi is a very difficult, set of letters in English to work into something like that. But I did see that it seemed like the people who were commenting about it all thought it was clever enough. So I was like, okay, well, I guess it worked.
That's cool. Yeah, the surrender and name worked out basically.
Yeah,
perfectly.
That works great. Yeah.
Yeah.
The last part was the one that took a while, but there we go. Anyways, we can continue.
So the next question, I guess, is how did Zoro know that?
Yeah.
Hey, like, I mean, don't we know a bit about his village, where he came from, where you might have heard that?
I mean, there's been, we could talk about this at the end, but there's been some connection, yes, between Wano and where he grew up. Anyway, we go to the next page. And everyone is just pondering over the graves where we now know these men lost their lives on Onigashima, presumably to Kaido. And Ashura Doji asks a very astute question. Why did it take 20 whole years? And Dogstorm says, we'll know when we know when everything's done. Kinemon says there must be a meaning to it all. And the only thing I could personally think to myself is it's got to be Luffy, but, we'll see. Anyway, Ashura Doji says, look, I don't intend to doubt Lord Odin. And he says, and he proclaims to his men, what were they called again? The
Tamayama.
Tamayama Mountain Brigade? Hey boys, the time in 8 days, the night of the Fire Festival. The mission? To raid Onigashima, the Kozuki name, and to raid Onigashima in the Kozuki name and take the heads of the Kaido the pirate and Shogun Orochi. Join us if you have what it takes. And they all respond, of course we do, Chief. This is the day we've all waited for. Lord Yasue's death won't be in vain. And Kinemon looks happier than I have ever seen him ever. And says, by far. Ashura, then you'll... And he says, yes, of course. I'll go get your sandwiches. No, he says, you're still the way you were back then, Kinemon. We might have been the same age once, but now we're 20 years stronger, which is a really good line I like. And he says, ain't that right, dog? Who also obviously has aged 20 years in this time. He's like, yeah, you make a good point. And Kinemon, how old is Kinemon? I should ask. He says,
middle age, roughly.
Yeah, I was going to say, shut up, you geezers. It better not hold us back. And the fight begins between them. But we cut away from that, Ed.
Well,
you're the man now, dog.
Oh, Joey.
On that top panel, what's up with that guy with the English tattoo?
Oh, yeah. He
Katana something.
It looks like it says Katana Higesori, which would be a katana razor or beard shaver. So I guess he's saying that he uses his katana to cut his beard.
Not very well.
Yeah, not very well.
Okay.
So it's you're the old man now, dog, if anything.
Oh, you're the dog now, man.
It's a completely different direction.
Just draw Dogstorm like Sean Connery with the. Anyway.
Ed.
Okay. So in the forest outside the flower capital, there are ninjas strewn about, dead-ish, and there's a bright light coming from inside the trees, or coming from the grove of trees. And another ninja is going down. Zoro's in the background, striking an incredibly cool pose, like cool like air jets are like sort of like the trajectory of his attack is following him. He sullenly sheaths his sword, and he's cursed by the dying ninja, who falls as he puts it back in the sheath. And classic samurai shit.
I believe this ninja is either Raijin or Fujin. They're the two guys that were riding the catfish things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we see that we are at
catfish under him too.
Do you think these are a bunch of clones of Hattori? There's a bunch of goons that look basically like the same guy, and it could be shadow clones or whatever.
So we see that we are at Enma Shrine, deep in the forest, and these are the flat black trees. But they have like these maple. They're basically like maple leaves, kind of.
Japanese maple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously the autumnal island, or part of the island. But Stephen, Enma, what does that mean again? Because I know Enma in
and also King Yema from
King Yema.
Yeah, Lord of the Afterworld, the judge.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
okay.
That's it.
I guess Ed answered my question.
I've watched enough Dragon.
Because Enma is like the child Enma.
Yeah,
right.
baby Enma. Yeah.
I feel real bad for that dude in the background that didn't even make it out of the tree. Yeah.
Oh god.
That's great.
All right.
And I'm hoping the shrine looked like that before Zoro got there, but I'm not gonna. Go ahead.
It's not symmetrical. Anyway, he says, "Is that all of them? He's stupid ninja in this army anyway." Classic Zoro.
And also, what do you call it? Saying what the audience is thinking also, because remember when they all showed up, there were like 50 of them.
Yeah.
It was like Oda had time to design all these. Anyway, go ahead.
So Hiyori opens the door. She says, "I'm sorry, I've been a burden on you." And he says, "Maybe so, but don't worry about it. If I let you die, I'd have to answer to Momonosuke." So he asks, "You going back to that house in the snow?" And she says, "Anywhere is fine, as long as I can hide. I'm worried about Otoko. I hope she's all right. I left her with my people. She'll be fine, physically speaking. Right now, I want to go after the guy who took my sword." Zoro wants his Shusui back. And it's interesting the way they're positioned here. He's sort of like staring off into space, hands on his knees, and she's sort of talking to him from behind.
Joe.
So Hiyori says, "I will take you there, of course, to the famous Bandits Bridge of Ringo, I presume." And Zoro says, "I gotta get it back by the time of the battle." And we see Gyukimaru saying, "You cannot understand the value of the great Shusui." Zoro continues, "The weight just doesn't sit right on my waist without it." And then, exhausted from his fight with the ninja, Zoro leans back on the porch of the shrine and says, "I can't forgive Orochi for this. I'm going to avenge Toniyasu's death." And then Hiyori starts to tear up, and she says, "As far as Orochi goes, I wish that I could kill him myself." And Zoro looks over at her. And I thought that was interesting, too, because it's like fair, Orochi killed her entire family, and is the reason why her brother got sent into the future. So if anyone has a right to kill Orochi, it's definitely her.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in the flower capital, someone's saying, "What's the matter with you? You've been acting strange." "Oh." And we see it's Drake, and he says, Drake and Hawkins. And Drake says, "It's nothing. Let's just get this over with." And Hawkins says, "Yes. This job is simple. Once he speaks, it will be over very quickly."
Look at his eyes.
Yeah. Hawkins has this crazy, evil look in his eyes. And then we see battered and chained up law. And Hawkins continues, I know you've got a connection to the Straw Hat crew, so you're going to tell me what you're plotting here in Wano. All of it. The doom.
And that's the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
Ed, it's your birthday. You start. What do you think of this chapter?
Nice.
I have a preference for chapters that stick to one story in general, but this is actually, I think, a good example of something that it hits in every story, really, because we get the little enigmatic moment with Kid, and we get like Luffy hijinks, but also like that leads directly into Momonosuke having this sort of moment, and that is also linked to Kinemon and Shuten Maru's talking about the people who have died and how it ties into what has become like Momonosuke's catchphrase, or the thing that he's not allowed to say. So that all ties together. So it works a lot better than a lot of these chapters that sort of flit around all over the place. The only thing that doesn't really fit in is the Zoro bit, but that's actually really strong for as short as it is. Like there's something like him and Hiyori have like a bond now, besides just having green hair. But so like they're working together, and they've like had this. Zoro's been separated from the rest of the crew, even though they've been back in Wano together for, theoretically the whole crew is here, but he's just off having his own. He's been off having his own adventure ever since they got split up like months ago, and it's typical Zoro, but I like that, and I feel like there's something special that's going to happen for him in this arc. So I can feel that building up.
I think you could say too that having spent so much time in Udon, consecutively, that gives Oda more chance to do like meaningful stuff when he starts jumping around like this. To have the scenes make more, have more value to them.
Yeah.
That it, Ed? Or
that's it for me. Yeah.
Dan?
I really like this chapter. I'm glad that we saw the after effects of Luffy's actions in the last one. I thought that was kind of funny. I've been wondering more and more as this goes on how Momonosuke is gonna, like, what role he's gonna play in this, because it seems like he's kind of the mascot of the arc. And I don't know exactly what he's gonna get to do. But to see him finally play a role that isn't like in the background of like Luffy or like any of the other characters, I really dug that, and I'm glad that they're looping him back in rather than being like, yeah, okay, he's the inheritor of the throne, whatever. Okay, Luffy got a punch. So I like that, and I don't know. This is probably my favorite chapter that I've been on the podcast for, which is kind of cool. Overall I really liked it. I don't. I wish I had more to say about it other than I think this chapter is pretty neat. It's good. Good chapter, Oda. I approve.
Good. Okay, now that he's been approved, Steven, what did you think?
I agree. It was a good chapter. Lots of fun stuff. I think that like most of these little mini scenes had a lot of cool stuff to them, either character moments or just like visually cool stuff. I mean, I loved seeing Kid's powers come back. Like it's such a great like bit of design, this sort of Akira-esque magnetic machine parts. I have no idea where he's like pulling these parts from, but it looks great. And there was some interesting, like there's some good stuff to ponder. I liked the use, while it might have been kind of frustrating to have this sort of constant like, oh, well, the prisoners don't trust Luffy yet, or they're not buying into like the whole rebellion aspect that, having like Momonosuke play this part of being kind of the symbol of hope for them, I think was a great like final swoop of the of the pen, so to speak, to make it all, to tie it all together. I thought that was pretty clever, and it was done well. The Tsunachi thing was it was difficult, to be fair. I spent a lot of time trying to come up with that, and I kind of like the way that it or I guess the role that this, like, phrase plays. But I wish that Oda had maybe, like, if he was going to have this sort of like, okay, let me put a little foreshadowing of this phrase, of this word, and then have it explained later, kind of tease people with it and then explain it later. If he was going to pull Zoro into this, I think ideally I would have liked if Zoro had quoted that in, like, maybe one or two arcs ago or something like that, to have it have come into the story earlier, because having, like, Momonosuke say this word out of nowhere that we've never heard before, and then being like, I learned it from Zoro. It's like, well, why does Zoro know? Like, why? What does that have to do with Zoro?
I actually have a theory about that. Like, I feel like it's something that young boys are taught when they're in, like, swordmanship training. Like, that's it's part of the curriculum or something. So, like, Zoro's never, like, Zoro's not a child person. Like, I don't think he likes kids very much. Like, he's never, like, he's not written in the story with him usually. So we get that, and I think he's, like, teaching Momonosuke the way that, like, he was taught when he was in the village back in the East Blue. That's just,
yeah,
theory.
I mean, I think that's what we will find out. I just wish he had kind of done the order a little different, as for how that goes. But I do like at the end of this, and Zach brought this up, the little part where they say, why did it take 20 years? We'll know when the job is done. There must be a meaning to it all. I think that's a really important thing. And it's kind of interesting because I think, when we first got that whole, like, oh, we're from 20 years in the past, like, there was this, like, kind of collective, like, what? Like, are you sure about this, Oda? And, like, you could see that there were, that like he could use this in a sort of poignant way to have certain, character moments more powerful and stuff like that. But it's not super clear. I mean, obviously, yes, like the reason why, what's her name? Toki wanted to send them 20 years, forward, to have it be like, okay, this is the moment where things will work out, where someone will come to the rescue. Obviously, yes, that's talking about Luffy, but I like that they're questioning this now, because I feel it just kind of makes me think of like a sort of Skypiea-esque, like, grand sort of moment or scene at the climax of all of this, where, like, everything sort of lines up and it all makes sense, in the same way that, like, Luffy ringing the bell in Skypiea and, like, sort of bringing home the story of Nolan and Calgara and all that stuff, like, it all works together very poetically. I feel like this is kind of Oda setting up something like that. I hope that it is. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, I think that's about all I have to say about that.
Joey.
Yeah, actually, my favorite thing that's touched on in this is that bit about the time travel and the 20 years difference and the soldiers that died and stuff, because I just feel like it was something that needed to be addressed, like, not just to the readers, but to have the two characters, like, speak to each other about, like, one character from the past and one character from the present, and kind of get into why Ashura Doji is depressed and why Ashura Doji was disillusioned, and things like that. So I thought that was really great. And I thought this did a good job of kind of touching on a lot of little things that you're, like, kind of wondering about, like, what's happening with Luffy, and, like, what will the people think, like, does Momonosuke actually have the power to unite the people? And it was kind of surprising to see that that he does, in some ways I was, like, not completely buying it. I was just like, really? All they had to do is see that he's here and they bow down to him. But, like, by the end of that page, even, really, I was kind of like, okay, I get it. I get what we're going for here. There's a lot of like really interesting, good art in this one. My favorite drawing in this chapter is actually of the shrine, the little shrine in the background in Zoro's section. I love the autumn setting and stuff, but that shrine itself is like really cool. I even like zoomed in on it when I was first reading it, just because I love looking at all the little details. And the thing I really appreciate about it is like the edges are like warped and bent and stuff in a way that I don't think is only supposed to be because it's like kind of beat up, but also just because it gives it that sort of unique One Piecey feel, which is really great. And the stuff I really love about Zoro's section is I was thinking as I was reading this, like, okay, we've got 8 days. Like, what are we going to do in those 8 days? And it's like, okay, Luffy's probably going to be resting and things like that. But now we have like a pretty solid like story that we can follow with Zoro going to get his sword back. And I wonder if that's going to be kind of the focus, like how the prison was the focus for the past few chapters. And then maybe just checking in a little bit with everybody else as they're doing stuff behind the scenes. This is one of those kind of like good. I feel like more and more frequently when I'm on, I'm like, oh, this is a good transitional chapter. It really kind of gets us to where we're going. But there's a lot of those, in between brontosauruses, skydiving and things like that. But like,
you did miss that, yeah.
Yeah. But so totally a solid, cool chapter. I'm definitely looking forward to the Zoro stuff. That's Zoro's story arc in this has been the storyline that been the most kind of like eager to follow along with.
Yeah. Do we think that because of the way that he, Zoro obviously spent time around Tony Yasu, and now he's like, I can't forgive Orochi for this. Do we think that this is kind of setting up like maybe Zoro's the one who's going to get rid of Orochi when Luffy fights Kaido, sort of thing?
I mean, I think that was already set up. He was about to attack Orochi originally, if you recall, with Tony Yasu, when Tony Yasu was executed. But what's his face came in the middle?
Kyoshiro.
Kyoshiro.
Oh yeah,
who may or may not be one of the Akazaya.
The only problem I really have with that is that Orochi isn't that interesting of an opponent. Like, I don't think that he's. I mean, I could be proven wrong, but like. He doesn't seem strong, not to get into like strength.
I mean,
7 heads. What are you talking
about? I do want. I'm gonna go to Joe in a second, but I do want to say I love his design. Just apropos of nothing, he definitely holds a lot of cards. He reminds me of like a more competent Spandam, in that he is despicable in every way, which is great for a villain. And he seems to have a lot more knowledge, and he definitely has a lot more power over the world government. If you recall CP0 and him talking, I know this was a quick scene a while ago. Thank God for that Wano recap thing we did a little while back, because I never would have remembered that. But there's Orochi has some cards to play. And I see Orochi being that kind of annoying opponent who doesn't use brawn but uses either brain or tricksterism to try.
He's like
get his way.
A little bit.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be very satisfying to see him get his comeuppance, and it would be awesome if Zoro cut off a bunch of his heads or something.
Ooh. I think without a doubt, whether or not it's going to be in a fight or what, Zoro is the one who's going to. I think we could, at this point, almost guarantee that Zoro's the one who's going to be putting him down. And if he's not, I would be extremely disappointed.
Especially if Zoro or if Oda is going to expand, if he's going to have some kind of touching upon Zoro's background, having some connection to Wano, like that seems like a good way. Obviously, yeah, sure, he should play a bigger role than the rest of the non-Luffy Straw Hats.
And one last thing, we're going into Wano, we were like, oh, well, Zoro has to beat a major person. Maybe he'll be the one to defeat Kaido. And not that that's the most ridiculous thing ever, but Luffy has to be the one to kind of do, deal that finishing blow in some way. But Orochi having like two major villains also gives Zoro that ability to give a very satisfying and cathartic blow to Orochi. Joe, what did you think of this chapter?
It's funny actually. Like I was talking to some of the people on Discord about this chapter, and someone brought up that like, what if Zoro does fight Orochi, much like Ryuma fought the dragon with like Shusui.
Yeah.
Shusui being the dragon killing sword.
Mhm.
It's like a rehash of what is it? Wanted, the romance, the
Monsters.
not romance, monsters. Thank you.
Yeah,
that would be cool. Yeah.
But yeah, I thought this was a really fun chapter. Like, I've been thinking about it, listening to y'all talk, and I think one thing that kind of helps it, but more than the other transitional chapters, is like we kind of know where everyone's going at this point. Like, it's better at setting up like, okay, Momonosuke is going to be a leader, which I thought it was also a good callback to like Zoe, where Luffy and Momonosuke fought, because Luffy's like, okay, you're supposed to be the shogun, then start acting like it. And then like Ashura's got his act together, and then we know Kid's off to find the rest of his crew. Like, it's nice to know for sure like where everyone's heading to. My manga stopped loading.
I mean, I was gonna even posit to you, since I know you know more about law than anyone. We did a quiz and proved that last time you were on. So where we ended with law, we haven't seen. I feel like it's been a while since we've also seen him smirk in quite that way. Like, I think we've talked about on the show before how Law was kind of introduced as this bad rebel kind of guy, and then he became kind of the stepfather-ish character to Luffy. It's like, you can't do that. That's not. So it's kind of interesting seeing him end in this menacing place, or like menacing looking face, like, ooh, I have something schemed almost, right? Or I don't know if you got that same feeling.
I kind of got the feeling of like, I don't give a shit what you do to me kind of thing.
Yeah.
One thing that I kind of thought about, another thing I talked about on Discord, was the thing with Drake. So I have two point of views that I could maybe see this going. One, like, Drake's been kind of weird ever since the end of Dressrosa, because there was a small panel where he's reading a newspaper where Doflamingo was defeated, and he just gets this like ellipses, and people are like, what's up? Like, is this something interesting? And he just doesn't say anything. And because him and Law have a shared relationship with, or not relationship, a shared history with Doflamingo, they never really addressed that. I don't know if they know that they have that common history, but so either Drake has sympathy towards Law and might actually help him escape. But another kind of wacky idea I had was, what if at some point Law switched Drake's personality with someone else? And so it's like a Apologies Potion type thing where it's someone else trying to act like Drake.
Possible and cool. I like that idea.
Yeah, it's probably not, but it just crossed my mind, and I thought that might be kind of funny.
It would explain the shit-eating grin. Go ahead.
It's definitely weird that like the scene starts and he's like, "What's the matter with you? You're acting strange." And it's just like it's just a drawing of Drake, just like, "Oh, I don't know." It's like, what are we supposed to make of that? Like, clearly he's setting up something.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
Gotta be something weird. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of like the end of like Luffy's flashback, where we just get a small panel of the boat where it's like, "Oh no, he needs medical attention," implying Sabo is still alive, kind of thing.
Right,
just like one of those small things.
Yeah, no, it's not a red herring, but it's just foreshadowing in the normal way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead. Anything else you want to mention about the chapter, Joe?
Not that I can think of. I was curious on the panel where Momonosuke is being bowed to. Like, there's a kanji on the wall, and I was just curious what that said. If it was anything interesting.
Oh, that's for jail.
Oh, okay.
Jail or hell. It's used in both.
Oh, okay.
So,
I was just curious.
So the kanji for jail is the same as the kanji for hell?
One of the kanji.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kanji is beyond my understanding.
The Japanese are not fans of soft, respectful jail.
And one thing I thought about with the
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say one thing I thought about while looking at the panel during the read through. Thinking back to like Grant's artistic analyses of panels, it's interesting that like all of the prisoners' like stripes are all like flat, so it really makes them look flatter than they actually are. Like it emphasizes how like prostrate they are to Momonosuke. It's just an interesting visual thing.
Yeah. So this is the one big thing sticking out in my brain. The Hawkins, Apu, Kid, Killer, and Law here. All these worst generation guys, and how they've been influenced by Kaido in different ways, respectively, or not. I'm like genuinely, I get this feeling. Maybe it's because I watch too much Star Trek, but it feels to me almost like they're under some sort of spell under Kaido, like or like the Apu and Hawkins and Drake, all these very powerful, supposedly strong-willed individuals, kind of, and Killer potentially. Because I think Killer was, quote unquote, defending Orochi or something, in his speech to Zoro when they meet. It just seems weird. I don't really have anything else to say about it other than it is suspicious, and I am suspicious about it. And the fact that Kid and Luffy ended up in the prison versus the rest of those guys makes me wonder. And the only thing I could think of that might be different, maybe the Conqueror's Hockey or something like that, that makes it so maybe Luffy and Kid, for example, can't be, quote-unquote, put under the influence of Kaido's sway. And as I'm talking, I'm like, oh, well, that's almost the same kind of quote-unquote power that Luffy has, the power to bring people along with him, and maybe that is also something that Kaido has. He seems like a pretty personable drunk.
On his good days.
On his good days. On his bad days, I mean, Luffy also has his off days. We all have our off days, is what I'm trying to say. But maybe, part of the quote-unquote Conqueror's Hockey thing, or something with this will of, the Pirate King, or this will of whatever, D maybe, brings people along with you, and the stronger you become, the more that power kind of grows. And so maybe Kaido has something similar to what Luffy has. I don't know. I'm just like thinking out loud.
I think you could. I think you could make the argument. Maybe this is like six of one, half dozen of the other sort of thing. But we've also been told through the story that like in the New World, it's like here's the emperors. They have their territory, and like they're the ones who control. Like whatever they say goes, and you can't survive unless you either align with them or something or other. And so it could just be sort of like I don't know, like similarities between the way that they work, as far as like for story construction purposes. Oda just kind of wants everyone to get bunched under one major character or another, and that makes it it's an effective and it's an organic way to bring all of these sort of second level characters that we have been introduced to but haven't really gotten a chance to see as fully fledged characters, like to have them come into this, and then they can play different roles once we see them in person. But I don't know, that's kind of what I think when I think about these kind of relationships that they seem to have.
I do like definitely the Joey, go ahead.
Oh, I just kind of I think that's a really interesting idea, Zach, and I think there might be something to it. But the only thing like really that I don't like about it is I really do like the idea that all of these members of the worst generation are like different in a lot of ways, and like that some of them would be like genuinely work against Luffy and stuff, rather than I feel like I remember early on with the stuff with Law being kind of like, oh no, but I don't want them all to work together. I want them to be like all working towards the same goal and having to compete with each other and stuff like that. But I kind of like the idea of him like slowly winning people over. But I do understand what you mean about that. It seems weird that they would work for someone else.
Yeah, that's more of what I was.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And along those lines, there's something that I was going to ask you guys about. I this chapter had me thinking about Killer a bit more, and I wonder if he's ever gonna put that mask on again, or if now the cat's out of the bag, and that's a design element that is kind of gone at this point.
I'm assuming
he's going to change his name to Laugher or something.
I've been killing too much. It's time I start laughing more. Yeah, I think it's probably gone, but who knows?
Yeah.
Look, we know very little about him. And I think the more we learn, the easier it will obviously be to answer that question. And so I just want to kind of explain my crazy theory a little bit more. And this chapter is bookended by these worst generation things. Kid and Killer at the beginning, alluding to Hawkins and Apu. And then at the end with Law and Hawkins. And specifically that really crazed look that Hawkins has there is like part of the feeling. I'm like, it looks like they're going to use some extreme measures, which I think this is pretty obvious by what's going on. But like, you know, I feel like at the end of this, with no reason to think this, that Law is flipping, but not like by his own free will because of whatever is lurking in the background here. I have no reason to think that other than I definitely watch too much sci-fi. Yeah, but I do want to say I really did enjoy this chapter. I definitely have that thing that Ed has and maybe it's just because you pointed it out, Ed, that when we switch scenes a lot, it definitely hurts, I think, everything. That being said, I think all the scenes individually were pretty fantastic. I do want to remind people that Kinemon, the super stern, serious guy who's very into the plan, we first met him, he was fart speaking on the back of a dragon. So I feel like I need to remind people about that.
Yep.
Yeah. Dogstorm, I'm a dog person. Cat Viper, though, is still definitely my favorite of those two, but I'm looking forward to seeing more from Dogstorm. I'm just trying to say the things that have not been mentioned. Glad to see some of the ninjas being kicked out because there's too many. I agree with Zoro there. I love seeing the autumnal scene. I agree with everyone there. I was wondering when we were going to get to the autumn part of Wano, so good to see that. And unfortunately, the official One Piece site spoiled me on those very first panels, which are pretty spoilerific, if you ask me.
Yeah, well, they do that they do that every week. So
no, they do. But to be fair, usually the first few panels of a One Piece chapter is kind of rehashing the previous ones. So this one, I was like, oh, I didn't want to see.
Yeah,
that.
I was noticing that for the past few weeks, it was always an establishing shot of the prison with people going rah.
Right. So I'm like,
oh, yep, another one of these.
That I know. And then this week it's like Kid and Luffy having a really interesting conversation there. So I'm like, okay. So that kind of ruined that.
I got spoiled too.
Yeah.
My love of Law spoiled me. I won't say who spoiled me, but
well, unfortunately some people for some reason are still not reading the very free, very globally available official release. I will say Luffy looks terrible. But still has the energy to throw a giant rock at Momonosuke. So using that remaining energy wisely.
Virus isn't poison, man.
Yeah, that's another drawing I really like. That's probably my second
it's
favorite
horrifying.
drawing. That
horrifying
one
and funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
He looks kind of like the smoking in bed ghost from Beetlejuice, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love how his hair is like standing up because it's ignited with sickness, I guess. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, it said it burns, like it literally.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a great panel. Anyway, that's gonna do it, I think, for the manga recap. Why don't we talk about Marineford with Grant?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're gonna start out with the grant segment, since we have the grant here.
Capital T.
So I was just gonna. I mean, we could just talk about Marineford. You just finished it, right? You got to the
Correct. I just
Okay,
hit 580 and wrapped that big boy.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm just gonna jump right into it then. How did you fare through Marineford?
You know, I made it. I survived. Few did. Few survived the Battle of Marineford, but I
to
did.
be fair. Yeah.
There's actually something that you were posting on Twitter about was that you thought, like early on in Marineford, it seemed like you thought that Ace was gonna die.
Mhm,
Like, did they
yeah.
ever did they get you and then get you back with like when they actually ended up killing him in the end?
I
They
don't know.
did that to us.
Yeah.
I mean, kinda, yeah. I mean, because I was like, oh, he got off the platform. Okay, but there was only like a 1 or a 2 chapter burst
Yeah.
where he was not on the platform, so I didn't have enough time to get comfortable with him. Like, I still had a lot of built up momentum of like, well, Ace is dead, and like he
Yeah.
got away, so I was like, well, you know, who knows? So I was pretty dead set on him dying from the outset. So I mean, I guess it was a bit of a come around, but if Oda really wanted to get me, he would have given it about 3 more chapters. Let me get comfortable with Ace, and like really
He was,
get his hooks in me.
Honorary McFly family member. Ace.
Yeah.
We definitely made that joke a lot when we first read that chapter. I remember. I think so when we
There
were
wasn't a lot of
originally
joking
reading.
in that episode, I remember.
You gotta
Of
laugh
the
at
one where he
tears, right?
turns back. Yeah. Well, we did. The Ace's death has gone through all of the phases of grief. I think.
Well, I want to talk about
Uh,
Anime Expo 2010 a little bit.
You want to talk about Anime Expo 2010? Go for it.
I just want to
Ed.
mention it because, like,
Because
this was-
Grant should have to live what we lived through.
No, but like
Take
our
me
friend
back.
Dennis, who's a great cosplayer, he was coming to our panel. He's been on the show a bunch, but he was going to be on the panel with us at Anime Expo 2010. This is one of the first big panels we ever did. He showed up late as Akainu with a cardboard cutout of Ace with the hole
With
in
the
the middle, and he
magma
was
fist. Oh, too
Hulk,
soon.
Hulk hand, Magma Fist, and everyone in the audience got angry with him.
They were all like, it erupted in just this like.
This was
What?
like 5 months later.
I
I
mean,
If
yeah.
you walked
Still
into
too
my
soon.
room right now in that cosplay, like, you get out of this house. Like, you get out of here, sir. So
That's still a thing. One of the photo shoots I went to, they were doing like the Luffy holding Ace thing, and this one girl wasn't caught up, and she's like, "I don't get it," and people were like, "Don't worry about it, then. Just don't worry about it."
To be fair, it has been a decade now, so at least the 5 months
Sure.
is a bit soon. Yeah. We definitely took it super seriously when it first happened, and I remember just kind of to get onto the topic that we were originally on. I remember we were like, okay, either Ace or Whitebeard definitely gonna die. One of them definitely, and then we're like, oh. Maybe both of them will survive. Maybe we were wrong. We went like on every end of the spectrum. Every chapter was like, okay, is it Ace? No, it's gonna be Whitebeard. No, it's gonna be neither. No, it's gonna be both. So
I
Grant,
imagine that would be very frustrating to listen to us from back then.
there's a lot of reasons it would be frustrating to listen to us back then.
are you
not
really
to
a
make this-
podcast if you don't hate your old work? I mean, truthfully.
No.
Yeah, right.
I only recommend the most recent episode.
Yeah,
So-
it's like that comic when someone's like, it's like No Fear, and someone's like, hey, I'm going to check out your podcast from episode 1, One Fear.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Except I have many more other fears. So
Where do you see that?
okay.
I was gonna ask you, where do
No,
you
go for
see
it.
like One Piece going? What do you know about what's coming up next? Like, hopefully nothing. I'm just curious where you think it's gonna go.
Yeah, I don't know really anything other than I know 2 things. I know that there is an arc called Wano because everyone's talking about it, and I just see that word pop up a lot. I don't know what it's about. I assume
It's
everybody
the
gets
current story.
Yeah, everybody gets
Yeah.
cool kimonos and stuff. That's all I really know.
That's all that happens.
Okay, cool, excellent. That's great. That's
Yeah,
going to be a great
yeah.
arc. That's literally that's enough for me actually. Just the crew gets new outfits.
That's kind of like Logtown,
That's every
except it
outfit,
was
or
it
every
was-
arc.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true too. Yeah. A movie a few times.
I know there's a time skip coming, and I can see why. I mean, just as like, I'm not going to be like, as a fellow mangaka off, like I'm not, like I don't create anything of this scale or anything, but like I run a lot of role playing games, and so like sometimes a story, when you do a lot and have a big event, sometimes like you just need to like, and some time passes, you know, a few months pass, a few years pass, just to kind of let some things settle for a while, because you don't necessarily want to play through or go through the blow by blow of the fallout from certain big events. You just need for there to be some time. So I don't know if it's like soon or just coming in the future, but like Oda's been laying out, he's been doing so much world building and creating all these characters and establishing all these stakes. And Marineford is like, all right, let's just break everything. Like, let's just run all the toys together and make all the big explosion noises. And there's going to have to be a point at which he just kind of goes like, and we're going to like shift away from this for a little bit, because it's taken so long to establish it. It feels right for there to be, even if it's not necessarily chapter 581, there's going to be soon a time where it's like, okay, we need to move forward a little bit and let a new status quo be established so that we can play in that space. Like, I just kind of like, I can feel that coming. I don't know when it is though. Maybe it's like 2 more years. I have no idea.
All very astute. All very astute. So I was going to ask, what were your expectations leaving Impel Down? I don't even want to say going into Marineford.
Right.
Leaving Impel Down to, and how many of those were met and how many of those were destroyed and to just burnt to cinder like Marineford?
I don't really know. I mean, saving Ace, like, I guess, I don't know what I was imagining was going to happen, because, like, I mean, Luffy goes into literal and figurative hell and gets all the little monsters together and puts together his rogues gallery of...
So it's not Lady Gaga's little monsters. It is...
No, it's Luffy's
little monsters.
Like, so he puts together this amazing team, and I guess what I was imagining, and maybe this was, I don't know, my expectations or whatever, but like, I guess I wasn't quite sure. I guess I didn't expect such a knockdown drag out fight between like literally everyone. It's very Gary Oldman style, like, give me everyone. Like, it's just Whitebeard and a billion pirates, and, you know, the Navy having everybody. I guess what I imagined in my head was that, like, Whitebeard and the pirates, whatever, we're going to try something a little more, maybe not cloak and dagger isn't quite the right term, but not quite as overt. And then Luffy and team were going to come like crashing in and like be the sort of disruptive element, I guess. Like, I thought they were going to try to get Ace out, and then Luffy and his people were going to be kind of more the explosive jumping through the window element, but they were just one piece of everybody jumping through the window and things exploding. So that was one expectation, I guess, that was subverted, and maybe I just forgot or didn't see some mention of how much force Whitebeard was amassing. I just didn't expect them to just park right out front. You know, Whitebeard's just putting his hand on the horn, like, come out and fight me, you nerds. Like, that was I wasn't expecting. And so beyond that, I guess just the sheer scale of it was just kind of like, oh, there's more. Oh, there's more. Oh, there's more. There's just more people, and everybody fights. Like, I even kind of anticipated, like, the admirals were like, oh, you know, we're too cool for this. Let's get on our super special boat and go away because this fight is beneath us, or we don't need all of us to fight. But no, literally, just everybody fights, and everybody just is kind of like flexing all their cool powers. So I guess I wasn't expecting that in terms of scale. I did expect Ace to die. I didn't really know if Whitebeard was going to die, but then going into it, I still didn't. Other than like Whitebeard, him big, and Whitebeard, him sick, I didn't really know much about Whitebeard going into it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You know, going into like all of the impact of Whitebeard's demise is entirely established at Marineford, because like before then it's just like he's a guy hooked up to some IVs with some nurses. He talked to Shanks one time. Love his stash. Like, I didn't know anything else about him, so I did, like, whether he lived or died, I was just kind of like shrug. I don't know. I mean, he seems like an important pirate, I guess, but Oda hadn't spent much time on him. Certainly not compared to the rest of the kind of cast and crew and characters and such. But I guess as it kind of kept building, I started to feel like, okay, Whitebeard's probably not making it either, or at least not in the form. You know, I didn't expect him to leave unscathed, certainly. But once it started going and Squar did the betrayal, I was like, I did not see the betrayal coming. But then when it happened, I was like, well, here we go. Like, the death of the good father, here we are. So, yeah, I guess that was the biggest thing I was not expecting, is how, more than anything, I was not expecting how attached I would get to Whitebeard and Ace. I mean, we saw a little bit more of Ace before this, like his battle with Blackbeard and so forth, and he was important because he was Luffy's brother. But in that sense, I cared about him. But I mean, if you were to ask me if he was a favorite character, and I'm like, well, I think the tattoo thing's funny, but you know, I mean, it's I haven't spent as much time with him as all the rest of the cast. And again, Whitebeard was kind of an anomaly too. So I was amazed at how much Oda had built in sort of their character building and their importance to me as a reader, while at the same time having the biggest fight in universe we had ever seen with all of the heavy hitters. Like I didn't think he was going to do both. And I just wonder, I'm glad he takes more breaks now. I'm glad he sleeps more now. I hear he does. Because it's clear that
maybe
hopefully,
yeah,
he's definitely taking more breaks.
There was a very popular hashtag that was going around at that time. Pray for Oda, I think.
He started taking more time off around the time skip that you were talking about, and then he got sick a bunch like 3 or 4 years ago, and then he got surgery, and now he's doing better. So
he had like tonsillitis or something.
It was chronic tonsillitis for a couple of years. Did and then he got them out.
Also,
and
does he still smoke? Do we even know that? I hope not.
I think I remember hearing that he stopped or something.
Please,
I know he started trying to
please,
exercise, and he was doing a terrible job according to his own comments.
He also got glasses.
This is what we should do. Since we got both Dan and Grant, you're our like exercise One Piece gurus, like the weird Venn diagram there. That's a little tiny sliver. We'll send you to Oda.
I don't know what the Venn diagram is for like anime actually helps. Like I don't just work out and also enjoy anime. I often work out to anime, and it has like added years to my life. Like figuring out I could watch anime while I worked out, like probably saved my life.
Yeah.
So there's another Venn
You too,
diagram.
Dan?
Yeah. Oh yeah. You
Okay.
gotta like, I don't know. I throw in some Yu Yu Hakusho while you're working out. Ooh yeah.
To be
I
fair,
have lifted this
that's a good.
multiple times.
Everyone else, I've been hogging all the questions. What do you want to ask Grant about his experience through Marineford?
I'm curious. Grant recently mentioned like wanting to see the crew back together. Like I'm curious to hear Grant's feelings about following basically 2 arcs now, or like one giant arc, like without the rest of Luffy's crew, like what that's been like, and if he has any particular thoughts or feelings about it.
I mean, of course, I'm heartbroken because I don't have. Where are my children? Where are my babies? My beloveds? They're not here. But
on
I
the cover
think,
page only.
yeah, only on the covers where I put my hand to the glass and I'm just like, there they are, and I can't reach them. Right? They're away from me. The little rose in my heart that's under that dome, it loses a petal every time I see them on the cover, and I can't read what their exploits are.
That got really...
I think it's a testament to how good Impel Down and Marineford are, that they're definitely in the running for some of my favorite One Piece content thus far, and yet feature none of my favorites. Like none of my favorite characters are in it, and I'm just like, I think that speaks to the strength of the material there, and I think it's a good. I think it's a good change of pace too. I think this sort of, I mean, it feels to me like this is an important moment for Luffy, right? Like this is definitely something that I think is going to inform who he is from here on out. I don't see how it couldn't. And it is probably one of his first real major losses in that sense. You know, regardless of who Ace was kind of before this moment, maybe in the same way that, maybe this is not the best comparison, but in the same way that like Jason Todd's death has always been something that has been part of Batman's character kind of ever since. Like even though Jason Todd like wasn't present in the comics that long, like that's kind of been a recurring thing for him kind of going forward. I feel like Ace hasn't been super present in the manga, but this is going to be there's definitely going to be like Luffy before this moment and Luffy after. And I feel like it's important that the rest of the crew wasn't there for that they couldn't help him. They couldn't share in his failure, but they also could not help him succeed. Because like if the Straw Hats were there, maybe they could have tipped the balance. Who knows? That wacky crew can get a lot of stuff done. But I think it's important that this is kind of like a personal failure for him, that he's going to, at least I assume he's going to view it as sort of a singular failure. It was all on him, even though he had the rest of that crew. But I also just like the fact that, and this is one of the things that I think differentiates Oda from other, say, shonen fighting stuff, you know, say like Dragon Ball or something comes to mind pretty immediately, like having a bunch of my old favorite villains come back, like Crocodile and such, and them not be worthless, and in fact be just as important, really, like Crocodile and Mr. 3 and stuff like that, contributing to the fight in pretty major ways, was really great to see. And anytime Crocodile can do anything, I'm there. Iva was an amazing character. Their presence is just literally kind of larger than life, but just like what a fun and wonderful character, and just I don't know, everything about it really worked, even though all of my top favorites are not here and not present. So I think that's just how strong the material is.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting what you've been talking about how it's kind of was up to this arc to sell us on Whitebeard and Ace, because they didn't have a lot of screen time up until this point. Because that was a problem I remember having when I first read it. It was like, I felt like I didn't really care about Ace that much. And I feel like that's the thing, is that he was mostly important to me, and possibly this is the way you're feeling too, but like to me, because of his relationship to Luffy and what he means to Luffy. Whereas I feel like the arc actually does a much better job of selling me on Whitebeard as somebody who I cared about and was like sad to see go, even though I didn't really know anything about him beforehand.
It's actually better Ace material coming. Like there's still more of it, so
that's good. I actually do. I agree with you though. Like textually, I think that Oda does a really good job with Whitebeard, and that Ace is sort of riding on just his connection as sort of an objective for Luffy. But all of Ace's personal hangups resonate really. Like once he starts like going through what his deal is, I don't necessarily know if I would say that Oda, like he definitely, like I think in terms of raw craft does it better with Whitebeard, but in terms of what Ace is dealing with, some of it resonates with me personally. So it still worked really, really well, just because of like what I'm bringing, you know, as a reader to the work. Like I'm like, oh no, that's me, like I'm going through some agony over that.
Well, I mean. You go ahead. Go ahead, Dan.
No, I will say, Grant, this read through has especially you going through it at such a deliberate pace, has actually made me enjoy the Marineford arc. Because I kind of feel like, okay, so my first experience with One Piece overall was watching the anime. And it's around Impel Down that the anime slowing down really starts to show. Because Impel Down is a lot of running. The anime is a lot of Luffy and the gang, or Straw Hat's B team, running across brick like bridges. You know, that's half of Impel Down. And Marineford is more kind of more of the same. A lot of like background pirates versus Marines clashing with a cool thing that happens about twice an episode. And deep dark secret, it's actually the first time I gave up on One Piece. I was like, I'm gonna give this a year, I'll come back to it, see where it is. And then
you wanted to watch the anime though, you weren't reading the manga.
I wasn't reading the manga.
He's not here, but I know Steven had a similar thing with Impel Down, I think. And I think he talked a little bit about that when we talked about that way back. But yeah, go ahead. Sorry, Dan.
No, it was it just like the pacing combined with the fact that like my initial reading of it as like the dumbest college kid alive was that, okay, this is basically like look, everyone's here scenario. It's very Sinister Six Avengers Endgame kind of thing, where it's like, most of the joy from it comes by like seeing like, I know him and him and him. They've all been in this series before, and like unless it's good, I'm just like, I just can't get into it. It does nothing for me. But after I read the manga and I breezed through it, and I was like, okay, maybe Marineford actually is good, actually. And then watching you go through it very deliberately, and I think I sent you a message about this, about it being a gigantic battle that includes everyone, but also being about like the little moments in it, was, I don't know, it was like uncovering like a stone of the One Piece manga that I'd never considered, is the fact that it's a giant battle. It's the biggest, it's the be all end all of this particular part of One Piece, but most of it, like the most important parts are all little emotional moments. whereas I didn't get that as much in the anime. Which, like, I don't get me wrong, I love a lot of the moments in the anime, like the Akainu Whitebeard fight in the anime when they go full anime with it. I'm totally down for that. Totally down for Whitebeard blocking Akainu's spin kicks.
Well, they don't show him taking off half of his face. It could have been better.
Yeah.
He just takes the mustache.
Yeah, he just.
Yeah, we made fun of that a bunch. I remember.
It looks kind of funny. Like Whitebeard's like, oh, face is like the lava fist comes back. I'm like, oh, okay. Now I'm
no,
yeah,
not the mustache.
Do you know how long it took me to grow that?
He didn't even look.
If someone destroyed half my facial hair, I would be in agony. I would definitely be like, no.
But seeing you go through it like deliberately, like actually take the time to read through it rather than be like, okay, let me get to the good part when Kizaru does stuff or whatever, was actually kind of cool. So I appreciate that. I appreciate being able to like look at the little points of it rather than going back to it wanting the giant in-game free-for-all battle that I actually wasn't going to get. So, or the big explosive moment, because it's not about a big explosive moment. It's about little emotional moments. So,
yeah.
okay.
I completely agree with Dan. Like, to the point where, and I yelled at you about this, Grant, is that you made me like reread through the whole second half of Marineford again, and I'm like, oh, this shit is emotional. And now you understand why I was pissed about it. Because like, oh, Ace dying, like, yeah, okay, I know, but it is I think he does a very good job making a character that previous, you don't have any real connection to for him or Whitebeard. I mean, if anything Oda is good at doing is making you invest in a character you just met quickly. Like, I'm thinking of like Chopper's flashback, where you don't see Dr. Hero Luke before that at all, and then you care so much about his death at the end of what is that? A couple chapters, or a couple episodes. He's good at that.
Even like Zoro, like the first time we see Zoro, he eats some dirty rice ball.
Oh yeah, the rice ball thing. Yeah, yeah, he's good at that.
I don't know. When I first saw Ace, I had such like a jock nerd complex with him. Back in college, like, oh, everybody thinks Ace is so cool. We
still do that, Dan, so you don't have to make too much fun of it.
Super cool, has super cool abs. Wish I could be around Ace and hug Ace, and everybody thinks he's so great.
This is going in a very different direction.
No, and I think again, not to constantly talk about my thread, but like I think one of the advantages is that I don't have to read weekly, so I can read at whatever pace I want. But I'm not reading as fast as I could. So just like taking time, and sometimes I'm like forcing myself to like
how you do that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, part of it too is like I think the exercise is worthwhile for myself, and I think everyone else tends to enjoy it too. Is sort of a daily thing. We all gather around and talk about it, but like sometimes I have to think like, okay, I read this and nothing stood out, but I always talk about stuff that stands out. Let me read again, or like look back again and just see if I missed anything. And like that, just the act of that helps me pick up on things that I think if I were reading 5 or 6 chapters a day and not really doing that kind of reflective piece on it, I think I'd be missing it. So I think that's the advantage of the forced speed at which I've locked the thread into like roughly a chapter a day type thing. Like it helps kind of sink in and really kind of soak in all the stuff that's going on, because I would probably miss a lot more if I were reading at the pace I would want to, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, yeah. You're 100% correct. And it definitely makes it more enjoyable, even though I'm always like, come on, get to the next thing. The next thing is the greatest. Or, oh, no, not this thing. Do you guys have any more questions for Grant? Wow. No
Who's your MVP of the war?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question.
Ooh, okay. So MVP. So hopefully we'll lap back around to Ace's thing at some point, too, because I do want to talk about his thing a lot more. But so I get MVP. In terms of,
you only get one.
That's a tough call. I guess I kind of have to give credit where it's due. I mean, Whitebeard is obviously like that dude. I mean, he just kind of he's cracking the frames of the manga itself. He can take on the entire Admiralty. He's got a total Guan Yu vibe with the giant spear. He's a good dad to all of his kids, and he even when Squard is like, oh no, I messed up, and he's like, I'm not disappointed. He's like, I'm not mad. I'm not even disappointed. I'm just sad I couldn't be a better dad to you type thing. It's like, no, it's like the ultimate dad thing to do
Yeah,
when
that
your
is-
kid
Yeah.
stabs you. I mean, like,
I completely did not get that the first. I'm gonna say all the previous times I read it. Like I don't think I put that together.
So he's definitely there, but I guess I kind of have to hand it to Iva and Crocodile and Mr. C, the whole B team. But I mean, Iva just keeps winking at people, and it just keeps working for me. Iva just has a head the size of a blimp, and it's just winking a whole crowd. Like he's like, or they're like Sauron, like winking away crowds of goons. I love it. It's great.
So crazy fun facts, and correct me, Ed, if I'm wrong about any of these.
Okay.
Both of those characters are based on real people. We talked about Ivankov already.
Oh, Ivankov
Um,
is based on the person who
The
was
former voice actor.
Yeah, like I mean, when they were younger men, Kazuki Yao does the voice of Frankie. Actually took Oda out to Okama bars in like Kyoto and stuff.
Because of course he did. He's Kazuki
Yeah,
Yao.
I mean,
yeah.
And this is how he meets this guy. And unfortunately, he only got to do like 3 episodes of the anime as the voice before the pictures of his tattoos were on the internet, and that was a scandal. So I won't say where the tattoos were, because then people might
let
search
your
them
mind
out.
wander.
Part, yeah.
Yeah. Just don't Google it. You know, that's don't is what I said.
Anyway, so who was
Where
the
the sun
other
don't
the other
shine.
character?
I believe Whitebeard was based off of an old bartender or something that Oda knew. I like
I don't
distinctly
know that
remember.
Yeah,
So I
no, that's
looked
true.
everywhere for
he-
I looked everywhere for the source for that, and it was I was having a lot of trouble finding it. Joey, do you remember?
Oof, I don't know. Was that in
Oh.
green? Maybe.
You know what? I have
Uh,
green right in front of me. Maybe I could find this somewhere here.
I don't know.
But-
I mean, but it's not in English.
I think he passed away a little bit after Marineford, because I remember talking about it. The person he based on, or I think it was like in 07 or 11 or something. I don't know. It was either right before
yeah,
or right after.
pretty sure it was a guy who
Marineford.
owned a bar.
Yeah, I think it is in
Uh,
green.
Grant, you
ahead,
wanted to
yeah.
circle around. You want to talk about Ace some more?
Yeah, let's talk about Ace.
Yeah,
Yeah, let's
yeah.
talk about-
I guess just like even though like Ace's sort of his like who he is and what he does doesn't necessarily like I don't know. I've never that's not my experience, but I guess like his particular like emotional hangups really hit hard, and like that was the twisting of the knife. I guess was not necessarily I guess just seeing parts of myself in him and things that I've seen in other people. Like I guess his whole thing with questioning his self-worth, whether he has any self-worth, but he's not really nihilistic about it. Like he keeps asking if his existence matters at all, if he's just trash and all that sort of stuff. Obviously a big Twitter mood these days. But just like that questioning of your own self-worth and wondering whether you have any or not. And then at the same time, recognizing it in others, though, like being willing to see that other people have value and fighting for that value and like wanting the best for others and like trying to do that for them and what they represent, but not being able to really give it to yourself and not like recognizing that you can have that too. Like that kind of twisted up like mix. And like, I think particularly the thing that got me was when he's on the platform and he's talking about how he's not worth any of this. Like this is all just like, I mean, he's watching the world like come apart at the seams, all these power players battling and people living and fighting and dying to save him or even what he represents. And he's like, I'm not worth it, but he's still afraid to die. And that kind of like that shame that he feels when he's just putting his head on the platform like that is like, and that's a lot. And I feel like in a way, it's sort of a mirror for Impel Down, or not Impel Down, Water 7 and Innie's Lobby. Like, but the structure of those two combined arcs is kind of similar to these two in a way, like the team racing to this sort of high point to save someone whose life is on the line. But Robin learns like that she does have value and that she like sort of learns the desire to live. But like Ace doesn't learn that lesson. Like he doesn't see his own value and ends up dying for it. I mean, he's still the whole like, thank you for loving me and all that. I mean, just like even in his last moments, he's just like, I mean, thanks for caring, even though I don't really care about myself or don't see why. Like that hits, man. That's just it's a magma fist through the chest, I guess is what I'd say. I mean,
and there's another example of something I've read the series 100,000 times at this. Well, not quite, a lot, and I never. I don't know. I never put together that theme, even though it's smacking you in the face. You know what I mean? Maybe just because I've grown, I think, a lot since I initially read that 10 years ago. It's in a very different place in my life.
Yeah, I'm an older guy, so I get that's another advantage. I think a lot of people talk about, like, people saying the thread. I read this when I was 12, and I was like, this would have just like, I can't imagine reading this at 12.
No, me neither. And Greg was mentioning in a thread recently, like, how, you know, this stuff is an all ages thing, and I think he mentioned, like, knowing people who were in their, like, late 60s who were reading this when it started, which, if you think about it, you know, isn't that ridiculous, you know, someone not much older than us, I guess, when they started reading it. So I mean, it's just, and that some of these themes, I think, just really hit hard when you're in our age group, especially.
You know, I was thinking, actually, because it's my birthday today, that Oda, when Oda was the same age I am now when he wrote this.
So I had so
that's one of those, like, what am I doing with my life moments where you just, like, put your head in your hands, like, I've done nothing. I took out the trash today.
Then you look back at it, like, because Paula on Twitter's watching the anime from the beginning. I was thinking, like, hey, Oda wrote this when he was 22. Fuck.
So Steven was nice enough to kind of translate some of what was in Databook Green, actually, saying that that Whitebeard's line, "I don't talk to snot-nosed punks," was taken from a bar manager that Oda knew that would sit in the bar hooked up to medical equipment and say his alcohol was medicine, and then and I guess later on was happy to hear Oda write that directly into his manga. So I think that's like the initial Whitebeard appearance that you were mentioning with the nurses and all that. Yeah, that's nuts. I'm shocked that Oda has left his house, or his studio. Any other comments about Marineford, or anyone else have any pressing questions? I think we should have you at the end of every major story to give us your thoughts, though.
I want to ask, like, what do you want next? Like, in One Piece? What do you want to see next?
I mean, all my babies. I want to see I miss them, right? I miss them.
That's the right answer.
Whereas, you know, it's like every time Poochie's not on screen, people should be asking, "Where's Poochie?" Like, I'm just like, "Where's Robin, and where's Zoro, and where's Chopper, and where's Usopp? What are they doing right now?" So I want to see them, and I want to see sort of the gang get back together. I guess the big thing is I want to see. I mean, Luffy has been just sort of the purest child, right? I mean, he's just an ambition and a pair of fists and friendship. I guess I would kind of like to see this event give him more texture. I mean, I guess in a sense, like, Luffy is that sort of, like, ultimate sort of young shonen protagonist to me. I kind of want to see this moment age him a little bit and have him grow a little bit into being not just the sort of platonic ideal of punching and adventure and fantasy and friendship. Like, I do want to see him take on a texture that no other hero can have because of what's happened here. So that's definitely a big thing that I want to see. So
that's one thing I thought about when I first watched Marineford, because I thought about it. Almost all of the Straw Hats have, like, some sad backstory, but Luffy was the only one that just didn't really have a backstory. Like, he met Shanks and ate his devil fruit, and that was about it. So that it was almost like this was like Luffy's moment of, like, a sad backstory kind of thing.
Yeah, he has his backstory as it happens.
We just live through the flashback arc.
And people always die in flashbacks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they do.
I have one question for Grant.
Okay.
Yes.
So you're in the gym sweating it out.
Yep.
And and Ace comes around and he's sweating it out too. No, so
but there's only one bench press. That's how it works, right? Like,
and you can't wipe it down because you kind of like the sweat there too. Okay, so so
do I need to step out?
you have this is just what bros at the gym talk about, man. You have to choose between 2 One Piece characters to be your personal trainer. However, you only get to choose between Blackbeard and Akainu.
Oh God. Okay. I guess Akainu, because Blackbeard scares me like a lot.
He's also
like,
in terrible shape. Isn't Blackbeard in terrible shape?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not. I don't.
He
think
takes a lot of damage, actually.
Yeah. No, Blackbeard scares me too much. I mean, imagine trying to like hold, like you're on the bench press, you're like trying to do your reps, and you just keep hearing like over your head. You're just like, please stop that. I'm going to drop these on myself. Yeah, I kind of.
I mean, to be objective, the better personal trainer would be Akainu, wouldn't it? Because he
Absolute workout. Absolute fitness.
Yeah, absolute fitness. Exactly.
He would be like the Hank Hill. He'd be like, "You're a loser, a loser,
Absolutely.
cry, baby."
I mean, if you're into that kind of workout, you know, he'd be the one for you. Meanwhile, Kizaru would be terrible at being a personal trainer. He'd be like,
You
I don't
just sit
care.
there.
Have a donut.
Too slow.
Yeah, I don't care.
You take a nap.
So Grant, thank you for coming on, sharing about your Marineford. I'll call it an experience. Trial.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on anytime. I love being on here.
Yeah, I guess the next time would be, what are you up to? You're 5. When is the?
I just cracked 580. 581 tomorrow. Tune in.
Congratulations.
Nice.
So I guess when would we have you? It would be, no, it's volume 61. Let's see. We probably have you around 600. Something like that. We'll force you back here. You don't really have a choice in the matter, Grant.
Oh, well. What was
thanks, Grant. Yeah.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Grant.
Bye.
Bye. You're the Piece Together now, dog. This is the Piece Together segment. We take your questions, comments, and theories, and often make outdated references about them. Joe, actually, Ed, what's our first part here?
This piece.
And Joe, what do we have going on Discord this week?
All right, the first question comes from Nifusto. They ask, regarding Ed's question, if anyone likes Black Clover, I like it enough to continue to follow the manga weekly. However, as I recently discussed with Sam on Twitter, the anime is a pretty hit or miss, and I've stopped watching it weekly. There's a non-zero amount of people I've heard say that it is the best show ever, so there's that as well. P.S. Hi, Grant. He's not here right now. P.P.S. Thank you, Dan, for the Which Crew Would You Be On quiz. I was very happy to find out that I'm a Straw Hat through and through.
Oh, God. Everyone but me.
I'm a little ashamed, but like that broke up, so I couldn't actually hear what series we were talking about.
Black Clover.
Oh,
Black
okay.
Clover.
Yeah, I did ask last week whether anyone watched. I don't see any discussion about it, but
Besides Sam,
I feel-
who,
yeah,
it's his
I
job
feel
to write
like-
about it. Yeah.
Anecdotally, I feel like there's a strong following for it, but it doesn't seem to have a lot of like crossover with other people.
I'm doing the weekly recap for Crunchyroll for it, and I have to write a lot of articles about it. And like, I dig Black Clover quite a bit, but it's never had its like Arlong Park arc.
Mm.
That's like one of those like I'll be watching this forever kind of thing. But that's
Yeah. My coworker, who I feel like has his finger to a more mainstream pulse than I do, is very into Black Clover. He said it started out where like the art was kind of, I mean, I think he was talking about the manga where the art is not great, but it's gotten a lot better. Yeah, I mean, I've heard good things. I heard recently there's been some good developments, but I am not only am I not caught up, I have never seen it, so I don't know.
I will say that I think that author or that artist has a really good I think he has a really good team of assistants similar to Oda, because a lot of the like magic effects and things that I see when I skim through the manga look pretty phenomenal.
Yeah.
I wish I liked the character designs themselves a bit more.
Yeah. It's like almost generic, I guess. Like there's not. Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. Joe, do we have any other questions on Discord?
Yes, we do. The next one comes from Straw Hat Pirate 9. They say, you guys wanted to hear the opinions of folks who watched Luke Cage and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I am a huge S.H.I.E.L.D. fan, and I recognized immediately every episode title you guys mentioned. The writer for those episodes is amazing. Hearing his name being involved in the Hollywood One Piece version made me very happy. I'm staying optimistic with what we know so far. And he crosses his fingers.
Nice.
Right on.
I'm glad I mentioned those names for someone. That's because I mentioned a lot. Yeah, it's really good to hear. I think I could see there being a lot of cross appeal between the Marvel Cinematic and Marvel Television universe and potentially a One Piece series. So fingers crossed. Yeah, that's definitely
you got to be good at adapting source material to a different medium. So that's it.
Yeah. I mean, Marvel is definitely, I guess, more down to earth than One Piece is, but yeah.
True.
Yeah, and I think you might either you or Sam mentioned last week that like the guy also might have written some comics, and I think that's a big plus too. Like to know what works in a comic book versus what works in a TV show. I think that like really helps to know like how adapting different source materials.
Yeah.
And the editor compared him to like to Greg, I believe, specifically, the One Piece editor. So
maybe talking about in terms of like One Piece knowledge, that'd be amazing.
Right. Yeah, and he was. I think he was talking like as being a fan at least.
Enthusiasm.
Enthusiasm. To be fair, Greg is rivaled by no man. So that makes me very optimistic. So I think we've mentioned on the show a lot that. Think of this as like an ancillary thing. No matter what, you will always have an amazing manga here. You always have a great anime. And if you also have this live action series, that's great. But if it ends up being terrible, you still have the other things. So what's next?
Next is from Grim. He says, so lately I've been thinking about the horrors of One Piece. Like what the citizens, or canon fodder really, of the One Piece world would have to deal with being affected by devil fruit powers. For example, having to live with 2 legs for arms after spilling coffee on Law's shoe. What would you guys think is the worst thing that could happen to you? Well, besides death, obviously. I might delve more into it and make it a Twitter thread.
Oh, man. What was the one from Film Z where it turns you so old? That would be a bad one.
Oh, yeah. The age one.
God, yeah, that was a legitimately terrifying fruit that wasn't used in the most terrifying way in that movie.
But no, it's like, used in kind of a
pervy way.
Yeah.
That's the word. That's the word. But if you think about it, that is a terrifying fruit, and it definitely like crossed my mind. I'm like, this could be really, really bad if used in, better.
Yeah. I mean, with the example that he gave, I do feel like Law has the capability to do some pretty nasty things to people if he was of the disposition to do so. Like, right, being able to like change your body parts or change your personality or whatever. That's kind of weird.
This is a really simple answer, but I like in both Whole Cake Island and Wano, like. For Whole Cake, like people seem to be generally like have enough food, but like if like Big Mom like loses it, they're all dead. Like there's no way to stop her. And in Wano, like they're impoverished. They're like Kaido seems a bit more stable, but like they're like starving to death. So that's been really like I feel like all of Oda's like, beleaguered citizens of countries that are being run by warlords has kind of led up to the state of like impoverished terror that we see in Whole Cake and Wano. He's perfected it enough to like now, like whenever like they did it in the anime pretty well. Like in the manga too, like the first Big Mom song where she was just kind of like having people like that worked at these like various material making places, just having them killed so she could get cake ingredients.
Right.
And like you just you live there, you live under her protection, sort of, but you're not protected from her. And it's kind of the same thing with Kaido, and it's I don't know, it's kind of horrifying existentially. So,
I wonder.
Literally,
we live in that world right now too. Yeah.
I wonder if Magellan's poison powers could potentially give you his gastrointestinal issues. That'd be pretty bad too.
Or being near Magellan at all. Not just for the gastrointestinal
Probably smells
reasons.
really bad.
I was gonna say that. Also, if he breathes the wrong way, he could kill you.
Yeah.
So that is an existential horror as well.
That dude's 40 feet tall. Those are like 40-foot man dumps.
The poisonous man dumps.
Yeah,
not even figuratively, which they probably also are.
Underground, like you don't have plumbing. They're this too much.
I would be like Usopp, but he was at the beginning of the series constantly. If I were in the One Piece world, and as I think any individual would be if thrown into that world, it is terrifying. Like I'm even thinking, like imagine being Buggy and being cut all the time. Being fine about it, but it's still kind of, or being Blackbeard even. Let's say you have that fruit, you still feel all that shit. That doesn't sound fun. Like even putting yourself in like bad people's shoes does not sound like a fun time for anyone. Yeah, no, I don't. Yeah. Any other questions, Joe, from Discord?
Yeah, this one from Stella, who says, if Jerry, George, Elaine, and Kramer of Seinfeld read One Piece, which of the Straw Hats would be their favorites?
This is my favorite question I've ever received.
I haven't watched it since I was like a toddler, so I wouldn't know.
No, this is a legitimately great question. Well, first off, Jerry does not want to be a pirate, so
it's true. Uh-oh.
So that takes
isn't there
out
an
all of
episode where
those.
like he wants to play with? Isn't there like an episode where he wants to play with like his date's toys or something?
Oh,
that's right. He feeds her turkey and she falls asleep.
Yeah, he does. He drugs her with turkey. And he's very into Superman. So who is the most like Superman in One Piece, I guess is the question.
That's kind of loose.
Shang?
Shang? Yeah, I was about to say.
Well, it was Straw Hats, right? That was the question.
Oh, was it Straw Hats? Okay, then I guess I'll.
Oh yeah, I guess it's
Frankie.
Straw Hats,
I guess. Yeah.
I was gonna say Kramer might like Frankie because I feel like that's the closest to like chaos
oh my God, yeah.
in the crew. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they have very similar energies going.
Yeah.
What about Usopp though?
Usopp is, yeah.
George would like Usopp.
George.
Yeah.
Yes. Cowardly.
Oh no! I'm sorry. George is more like Nami. George would like Nami the most. I don't even know why I thought. First off, perfect,
the money.
Perfect guy, money. Yeah, very much appreciates her frugalness. Nami also kind of amoral sometimes. I'm trying to think of.
But who else on the Straw Hats would take a nap under their desk at work? Actually, that'd be Zoro.
Zoro. Yeah, that's definitely Zoro. Yeah. That's the thing. They each, I think, could take all of the worst qualities of the Straw Hats and combine them into something. To be fair, though, Kramer and Frankie, or Kramer and Brooke, just look-wise almost. And you need someone for Kramer, someone who's pervy, chaotic, somehow the star of the show when he enters. That's why Frankie, I think it might be a little better, even though I think Kramer and Kramer and Brooke look and kind of have the same energy also, but yeah, that's a good question. Elaine, Robin, or I think she'd admire Robin maybe. And Elaine is definitely the most well-read of that group, which I guess is not a tall order, although she is in publishing, so for most of it. Is that everyone? Did we say what about Newman? Newman Blackbeard, definitely. I mean,
Oh,
yeah.
Hello,
He's fandom.
Blackbeard.
Oh, now I want to see this. I want to see this crossover happen. Spandom. Okay, only I'm finding that funny. Is that it for that? Joe?
So I actually wrote in one before,
Oh.
but I deleted it because I don't know.
Well, what's
It
the
kind of got
question?
So it was a response to an email you guys got last week about someone messaged about Law using his powers against Hawkins to free his crew, and basically, like, I just brought up a couple points of like the person was arguing that Law could switch bodies with different people to prevent the powers from having an effect on his crew, but Hawkins could hurt himself, therefore like making it not work. Or one thing that I've always thought is that if you switch bodies for somebody, they don't know how to control the devil fruit power, so they would still be at risk of being injured with that. But I think the biggest thing is Steven mentioned it a couple weeks back, or not a couple weeks, but a while back, that Law and Hawkins have these kind of like stupidly OP powers that like you could easily just say, well, why don't they do X and why don't they do Y?
Don't
And-
really know what Hawkins' power is.
That's
really.
yeah.
Yeah.
Law, you're
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Law we do, but
Yeah.
Hawkins, it's like it can be anything.
Yeah, because like I remember that was a big thing during Dressrosa. It's like, why doesn't Law just do this to Doflamingo? Like when my boyfriend was reading it, he's like, why doesn't the Law just switch Doflamingo's personality with like a mouse or something? And then everything's just
He's right.
everything's canceled out then. And it's
also-
technically that would be broken.
And that also would have been a fantastic plot device. Seeing Doflamingo as a mouse. Maybe next time. Oda.
Yeah, I drew a picture after that. Just angry little mouse Doflamingo.
Well, he'd somehow get the sunglasses.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know this wasn't the direction your question was going, but I do like the idea of a Doflamingo mouse.
If the Den Den Mushi get the sunglasses, then the mouse would definitely get him.
Obviously. Yeah, I don't know if Hawkins is like a world breaking one because we don't quite know. I agree with Ed. Law definitely does have a world breaking devil fruit power, 100%.
Yeah, it's like
I
there's
wouldn't-
too many
I wouldn't be-
variables.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if Hawkins at some point in this arc busts out Law's like, well, I need to conserve my strength line just as to be like, okay, this is why I'm not going to do this right now. Like I have to cut, Oda has to cut it off somewhere.
Well, Hawkins
other-
is so specific and weird. Like it's almost like the opposite of Laws. Laws is like kind of vague and weird. They're all weird. I mean, it's One Piece. But like, yeah, it's more nebulous. Like what Law is able to do. I could make a room of energy or something and control anything that happens in that space, including switching personalities and body parts and all sorts of things. Hawkins is, I could inflict damage with these straw men. It's very confusing. But it's also
They're
very
like extra
specific.
lives in a video game almost.
Yeah. Actually, have we had a video game fruit yet? We need that.
No,
I
you're
know
thinking of JoJo's Part 3.
And Yu Yu Hakusho. Where
Oh, yeah.
there's also
Oh,
yeah. Anyway, is that it for Discord?
Yeah, that's it.
Email.
Okay, let's go to emails. Yeah, let's get through these. First one comes from Ryan. By the time you read this, I will be attending my third ever session of Dungeons and Dragons. If the Straw Hats play D&D, what would their race and their class be? Also, what arc of One Piece would you use to make a D&D campaign with, or if you made a custom adventure set in the world of One Piece, and what would it be about? I've always wanted to play D&D and have never played.
Boy,
Neither have
might
I.
not
I
be the
don't know
right
what I'm
person.
talking about here.
Yeah.
Boy, so let me tell you, I don't play D&D yet, but I do play a tabletop RPG with my friends, and I did make a Lippy character in it. He's like a like a martial artist type character.
Luffy wishes.
Sounds right.
It's the closest thing I
mean,
can get to like punching and stuff.
Yeah.
Impel Down is pretty much already a D&D dungeon, right?
Yeah.
All the levels and yeah.
I mean, most of my D&D comes from like anything Dan Herman has done at like, my limit of knowledge in that.
I was gonna say, I think Alex and Shannon are the people that would know best. I think they're the ones who have the most experience.
Ryan, why don't you repose that question next week? I think Alex should be back. He's at Otakon right now, I believe. Is that all the emails we have? That might be all the emails we have. Yeah, do you want to go to let's go to some Reddit, Steven?
Reddit. All right. Mr. Fiendish says, yeah, that's your song for this week. Aloha OPP. What is up with Chopper's basket dance? Is this a Japanese culture thing or a reference to something? I have never understood why he is waving this basket around. Please explain.
It's Ken Shima, isn't
it? No, that's like a classic sort of comical dance, I guess I would say.
I thought it was from a television show or something like a comedian used to do.
No, that's the thing with the chopsticks in the nose. That's different.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Oh, that's what you were talking about.
Dance with the basket. The dance with the basket is called Dojo Sukui, which dojo is it's not a catfish. It's like one of those kind of eel looking fishes that you find in a river. And Sukui means to scoop, so it's like the dojo scoop dance, and so that's why they have the baskets and they're going woo woo, like scooping them up in the air. And it's a very silly dance. Like they have the bandana over their heads, and they kind of do that little like weird squat pose as they do it, and it's just kind of a silly thing. And I think it's pretty like it goes back to Edo times or something like that. So that's what that is. So I thought it was funny. So yes, Chopper do it. And then I think the things in the nose was probably from a comedian, like you guys mentioned. Kiko XE, I don't know how to say Kikoxi says, "Hey OPP, over a year ago I bought all the volumes from 1 to 70 in a box set form. There were 3 sets containing 23 volumes each. I'm now tempted to buy the rest of the volumes available. However, I was curious to know if a box set 4 would come out sometime next year, considering the fact that there will be 23 volumes by the time volume 94 released and waited out by then. I did a little digging and found out that it took 2 years from the time volume 70 was released to box set 3 being released. Buying those sets saved me money rather than buying them individually, but then again, it would be nice to have the rest of the collection to the current date. Thoughts?"
You can get manga sales on like Right Stuff, usually pretty good. Because it is going to be a couple of years until another box.
Yeah, I would not expect them next year. I mean, that seems like a stretch to me.
I mean, Steven, I don't know if you know the answer to the question I'm about to ask, but I'm assuming that those box sets come because they have surplus volumes and they kind of, it's like a good way to let go of inventory that they may have for.
I don't know. That could be the case.
Might be a big assumption.
It's probably more to do with the fact that One Piece has 90 volumes and it's really hard for a bookstore to stock all of them if someone wants to buy them. So having this like big option where they can sell it at a slightly reduced cost per volume, but it's still like a major, a major investment. They'll get a lot of money for selling a single one of those box sets. And so I think that's the strategy behind it. But, that's selling to people that are specifically not buying the volumes individually. So they don't want to just have like, okay, here's volume 93 and then next month get the box set, because then why would you buy the individual books? So it's I would expect it to be a little bit later, not too soon. But, it all depends on what the, publishing landscape looks like. They may decide to hurry it up or not. Who knows?
Yeah. It depends how frugal you want to be, too.
Yeah. I think what Ed said, if you wait for a good sale, you can get, individual volumes for a pretty good price, I think.
Or you could pay $2 a month and get the whole back catalog, too.
It's true.
Depends what you want to,
I still buy volumes.
Yeah, I do both, yeah. Damn.
Yeah,
Yeah, I just got volume 91.
The one thing about the digital vault that I'm not sure about what their plan is in the long run, but so they have all of the old chapters digitized from the volumes, but I think pretty much like most of the recent, like the last year or so of chapters are specifically from the Jump chapters, and I don't know how quickly or if at all they intend to update them to have all the volume stuff, like because
I'm doubting that they're gonna do that.
Right,
Yeah.
the old chapters have the SPSs and things like that, and so I don't.
And also, if there is a mistake, or which never happens, I know, Stephen, but if there's ever a mistake, those usually get corrected in the volume form
for other,
including from Oda
also
too.
art mistakes.
Yeah, art mistakes included.
Yeah.
So yeah, the volume usually will have the most recent version. You could also get the digital volume. I believe you could still. I mean, I know you could still buy those from Viz. So if that's also a cheap way to do that, if you want to be frugal about it. If you don't care, I just buy the volumes as they come out.
Those giant boxes. I got my first one back when I was living in New York, and I was going over to a friend's, and I was actually gonna lend them some volumes. So I brought the giant, the big 23 volume briefcase, and I was like, this would be pretty cool, just walking around with my One Piece briefcase. And I took it on the train, and I pulled one out, and then somebody bumped into it running down to make a thing, and it went everywhere. The volumes it flipped over, and the volumes spilled out, and
on the subway,
on the subway car.
Oh,
and
no, you're in everywhere.
The most stereotypical sitcom nerd ever in the world, I yelled, "My manga!" And then jumped to sweep it up with my hands like a piñata. And
which part of New York were you in? I really need this for the full image.
I was on the F train near J Street Metrotech.
Beautiful. Okay, now I got the full image there.
It's there's no good place in New York to spill all of your manga all over. But just on the subway, and no one cared. No, everyone was just like, look at this.
Well, yeah.
Weird thing.
I mean,
yeah.
That's okay. You had a true New York experience, spilling your manga all over the subway and no one giving a shit. What's the next
now,
question,
which
Steven?
member of Seinfeld would have done that? All right, next question is from ATLA for Life, who says, where in the world is Scratchman Apu? I don't know, but I do want to know. Is he on Wano? Do you guys think he's touring and on concert elsewhere? Maybe he's writing the hottest album of the year in One Piece in Hakumai or Kibi. Jokes
Maybe
aside,
he's on
where
the
do you
F
think
train.
where do you guys think he is? Do you think he's a Toby Roppo member? Oda must be hiding him for a reason.
What were the Toby Roppo again?
Assumed he was like a.
The Toby Roppo are the leaping lizards, the headliners, the top headliners.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I completely forgot. Go ahead, Joe.
I kind of assumed he was his position was like a sentry. Like he spends most of his time on his ship, going around the Kaido's territory, reporting back to him about whatever business stuff's happening.
I assumed he was on
the last-
Onigashima too. We saw we talked on a transponder snail. That was the last time. And
it was
we're
after
not even
Zoe.
positive. Yeah.
It was about Jack. He reported to Kaido that Jack got beaten.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Okay. Huh, that is interesting then. Yeah. Yeah, he could be. I mean, if Drake is in the Toby Roppo, then, that would make sense. I could see that.
Apu was my favorite of the supernovas for a while, without knowing, at the beginning when we didn't know anything about any of them. So I'm just skeptical how he's going to be used here in this arc specifically, because I feel like he so does not fit in this arc. Yeah. His devil fruit power specifically. Let's get some. Well, I guess Japanese rap is pretty fantastic, but yeah, I don't know. What's next, Steven?
All right. Simon346 says, hey, OPP, why do you think Shanks sacrificed his arm to save Luffy when he probably could have saved Luffy without losing his arm. I heard a theory that he did it to teach Luffy a lesson of not being so reckless so he wouldn't make the same mistakes that Goldie Roger did, which led to his death. What do you all think? Best regards from the land of Semla, Sweden.
I think Shanks, well, he knew Luffy's name, right? Maybe Shanks knows about the Will of D.
And the straw hat. Oh, no, wait, that was his straw hat.
Yep. That was his straw hat.
I
That's the only thing I can think of.
No, I think it was a story element that, you know, he sacrificed himself for Luffy, and that's why that's one of the main big reasons Luffy looks up to him so much. Like, look, this adult sacrificed himself for a stupid thing I did.
Especially after they fought.
Yeah.
What?
Joe, what?
Oh, I said especially after they fought, because that was like right
Yeah.
after like he yelled at Shanks for being
Right.
wimpy pirate
Yeah.
for not fighting the bandits.
Yeah, I mean, the story, the picture gets a little muddled now that, like, through the Viva cards and stuff, they're like, oh yeah, Shanks was one of the 4 emperors at this time, which, you know, kind of makes him seem, knowing what we know now, that makes him seem way more powerful than he appeared even in that first chapter. But I agree with you, Zach. I think it was just a storytelling choice that, like, if Shanks is some super overpowered badass and he just uses his, you know, conquers hockey like mind powers to instantly eradicate the sea creature and, like, you know, just like brushes the dust off his shoulders like it's no big deal, that doesn't mean as much as if he actually, you know, suffers a serious injury. That shows his dedication to Luffy, and it's why it shows why their relationship is so important, which is, like, you know, one of the central relationships of the series. So, like, I think that, you know, to do it another way would have made it way less powerful.
And also, this series is 22 years old, and some things are just not going to jive from today to then. And that is definitely, as Stephen put it very well, just in retrospect, okay, doesn't make a ton of sense that he wasn't able to just defeat this random serpent by staring at him and giving him a heart attack or something. But that would have been a crappy story. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Shanks losing his arm for like a bigger purpose kind of makes him sound like that Arrested Development character who keeps losing his arm, and it, like, turns to Luffy, and that's why you never call someone a coward.
That guy.
What was it, J. Walter Weatherman or something like that?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. I like that theory. I know it's not right, but I like it. And that's why you never go
Always
back
leave a
and.
note.
That's why you always bring an umbrella.
Yeah.
What does that have to do with it, Shanks?
Why you always bring a life raft on the ship.
Okay, what's next?
Next is Dark Sundown, who says, a couple of weeks ago, you all described what arc or story you wanted the One Piece live action to start with. Now let's talk about the ending. What do you want the show to end with, or how do you want it to end? I'm afraid of a Game of Thrones thing happening. That is, Oda giving his notes about how One Piece ends to the showrunners, and then, quote unquote, never having a book canon ending. Or do you not mind finding out what the One Piece is through the live action instead of the manga or anime?
The source material is so far ahead that, like, that's just not.
Yeah.
That's just not. Like, there's years of material. Like, well, I actually do think One Piece will end before any live action show could get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's way more likely that they would, if they get the show produced, that it just would not last long enough to get to that point.
Yeah.
That's the most likely scenario. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's a Netflix show, right? Like, it's
we don't know.
They haven't said.
We're just assuming because they're using Matt Owen, from Luke Cage, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is on ABC. There's no reason to think it'll be Netflix, but Netflix has been buying everything, so maybe that's why we're just assuming.
Yeah.
We have no reason to think that. But, you know, like, whatever, if it is. I don't think there's any chance of that. Go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
It's also the case, like, with Game of Thrones, like, he hasn't finished any more books in a while, whereas One Piece is still ongoing. Like, it hasn't stopped in 22 years, so.
Yeah.
Didn't he like release like one book during the course of the TV show?
The 5th book came out after the first season had aired, and then he's written like a bunch of history books about Game of Thrones, and has not produced anymore. So yeah, it's obviously like Oda. It's not going to stop and be like, you know what, guys, give me a few years to think up the next arc, and
It's just such a
I'll get it back
different.
to you.
It's just such a different scenario.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't even think I would worry. I wouldn't worry about that specific scenario unraveling like that.
Yeah. All right, getting to the last few. A Nervous Flower says, on the last page, we have Hawkins asking Drake why he is acting strange. My question is, whose personality do you think Law switched with his? Yeah. So if it is a switcheroo, who would it be?
At the end, who smiles? Who makes weird smirks?
No, for Drake, not.
Oh, for Drake.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's not Law is who I was thinking of too.
I was thinking it would probably be one of his crew members, either Shachi or Penguin, just because who else would Law trust?
Oh yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that, or Beppo. What if it was just?
They
Beppo?
wouldn't.
Beppo's
Yeah.
not there.
Yeah.
We don't know
Beppo-
if Beppo is.
I think Beppo is there, right?
Yeah, he
No,
was.
that's
Well, they were
specifically
in
why
the.
he.
They were in the
No, but-
cage.
No, it was
together.
all three of them.
Hawkins specifically arrested. No, but Hawkins moved Beppo because that's why Law was arrested, because he's like, because he wouldn't leave because Beppo wasn't there. And so Hawkins is like, this was like 5
No.
chapters
I
ago
thought
or
I
so?
thought it was that all three of them were being injured by Hawkins' attack because they showed a silhouette of the three of them. That's why we used the image from the Queen album.
Oh, the Queen album. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were, all three of them were there, but then at some point they moved Beppo.
Well,
Hmm,
I just like the idea of Drake being stuck in a bear's body after being a reptile for so long.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I just find it funny anyone being in Beppo's body being like, what's happening? Okay, what's next?
All right, let's see. I'll go with one more question. This is a good round off. Alice W90 says, hi, OPP. Since Zach got bitten by a deer in Nara, does that mean he has the best OPP butt? Thanks and keep the good work.
I don't have a lot of self-confidence about a lot, but yes, the answer is yes.
All right.
I think, let's move on to Ed.
All right, it's time to piece the tweet. Time to piece the tweet, everybody. First one comes from Martin Linvid, who says, is it physically possible to hold all of the released One Piece volumes? He says it is technically possible to do it with all 32 volumes of Dragon Ball if you got bins. But yeah, I mean, like, you could, it's 3
if you like
equal,
bind them
no.
together, maybe? Like
No, it's 3 equal stacks of 31 volumes. So you get one in one arm and one in the other arm, and then hold one of them with your hands.
No, with your mouth, like Zoro.
Gonna fit
Is this
31.
like the guy who can't hold all the oranges?
Dan, can we put this in your Crunchyroll description to try and get you to hold every volume of One Piece?
I was about to
somehow?
say I can do that right now. No, I'm not going. Well, maybe tonight.
As long as when they fall, then you go, oh, my manga.
Oh, my manga. my biggest concern about holding one in my mouth though is like if I ever lend them out, they're gonna be like, "What's the bite marks in this one?" I'm like, well, this internet guy asked me pick them all up.
I'm not just some internet guy. I'm the internet guy with the best butt on the One Piece podcast.
True.
Okay.
What's next, Ed? Yeah, please. Let's move
Sniper
on.
of my heart says, who do you think in universe coined the term Pirate King?
Huh.
Universe.
World
That's a
government?
legit question. So wait, do we know, is Gold Roger the first Pirate King?
I mean, yeah,
Like-
as far as we know, there's
Well,
never been any evidence that it was a thing before that.
Yeah, and like the qualifier is just like finding the One Piece, right? Or like traveling the whole sea.
Right.
I mean, if we think about it, Roger wasn't that long ago. and all that happened. It doesn't even seem like he was Pirate King for that long. So what did that involve? Yeah, we don't know very much. Yeah, I have no
well,
freaking
I mean,
idea to answer that.
technically, didn't he only get to the Raftel like a year before he died or something like that?
Yeah, so
because he was sick. That's we on his last journey.
He had a really short reign. He was like the William Henry Harrison of Pirate Kings.
All right.
Well, maybe his name was really William D. Harrison.
All right, next one comes from Wes the Fitting, who says, just wanted to let you know that trivia is my favorite segment of the podcast. Despite that, I hope Ed gets a special birthday reprieve this week. Thank you all for putting up with the brutality of trivia for mine and Zach's enjoyment. So, I get we are not going to do trivia this week. That's only because we got started like an hour and a half late.
That too. That's my fault. But I'm going to blame it on Ed.
Next one comes from Return to Sabati, who says, my birthday is this Tuesday, and apparently I share a birthday with Miss Doublefinger. Does anyone from the OPP crew share a birthday with a One Piece character? Having a late in the month birthday means I do not share a birthday with any One Piece character.
None?
No, none from July 28th, I don't think.
Okay, we have the birthday calendar on our website, I think. I just have to find where the hell it is. I know
Does anyone...
Usopp.
Oh, yeah,
I
you
share
do.
a birthday with Usopp, yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I know I do.
Ooh, which one?
I share a birthday with everyone's favorite character, Shiryu.
I thought you were going to say Caribou. That'd be worse.
I share one with the guy I originally thought was going to be a Straw Hat member back in when I first watched it in 2007. Jin.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I didn't think we were going back that far. I thought you were going to say Polly.
Yeah.
Steven, do you have any?
I don't know. I'm trying to look. The official site is not. I'm trying to find the calendar. I don't remember. It was kind of funny. Okay, now it's loading up more. Where is the calendar? There we go. There's the birthday list. Let me see.
The One Piece official site has it now.
How do you get to the? Okay, choose month. There we go.
You see,
all
you
right,
speak
let's
Japanese,
see.
so I assume it would be easier for you. Can you send the link to that so I could also see who else I got here?
Oh wow, no, my birthday is still one of the blank. There are 2 days of the month of my birth month that are unfilled, and my birthday is one of them. So. Although I did see the other day because if you follow the one-piece.com Twitter account, they will post like, oh, here's today's birthdays, and they have the pictures of the characters. And the other day was this amazing combination, where it's
always
Flapper,
funny.
Yeah, it's Flapper from the Tentatas.
Don't forget about him.
Flapper. And the other guy is named Hustle, and he is the background member of the Krieg Pirates who does the muscle pose where he's hitting the backs of his hands together and making a kissy face with his little pompadour.
Jeez, I do not know who that is, but I'm going to look right now.
Amazing. Great. Like, what an honor to share a birthday with those guys.
It's always ridiculous combinations.
Yeah, I'll share this with like 2 other people.
Yeah.
Next one comes from Stacy Chen, who says, do you want Zoro to get Shusui back or get a new sword entirely? To push it even more, would you want Zoro to get 3 brand new swords on Wano? No, definitely not. That last
one he needs to keep at least.
Yeah.
Keep the boys together. His katana boys.
I think he has to he's gonna earn Shusui. He's gonna he's got to have a reason to have it. I don't think he's gonna have any new swords, honestly. Maybe he'll get a different Kitetsu. Maybe Kitetsu will get destroyed. I don't know, but he should have a Kitetsu.
Yeah, I agree with all that.
Yeah, I was gonna say there was something interesting at the start with the other Kitetsu that Luffy had. That's all.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, Zoro wanted to see the Kitetsu, and Luffy was not letting him.
Never get to see it. Where is it now? Where is it? Anyway, go ahead, Ed.
Last one comes from QuipQuest, who says, funny enough, an armada of naval soldiers chanting Snatch over and over as they sailed to war was the same thing the Greeks did when going for Helen on Troy.
Oh, God.
I must say, Troy is not an island. It's on the coast of Anatolia, but that's different story. But I don't know that's what he's going for. Anyway, that's it for Piece the Tweet this week.
Thank you, Ed. Let's round off. You guys ready?
Let's do it.
This has been the One Piece Podcast, episode 580 for July 28th, 2019. Please support us on Patreon at patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast, where we have new stuff every week. I am, and I mentioned this last week, posting extended versions of episodes. Those come out sometime on Wednesday. I can't always be super consistent with that, but there should be an extended episode this week for this episode. If you're listening to it now, I guess you could listen to it again. That'll be at patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast, where we have outtakes, exclusives, conversations, fun stuff. I think we'll also be having our second episode of Crewing Around in the next few weeks. We're doing that monthly. So you can check that out. That's at patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast. But that's it for the Patreon stuff. We'll also hopefully have the interview with Sabo's voice actor, Toru Furuya, out a little bit early, exclusively on Patreon as well, so you can check that out hopefully in the next few weeks. But Stephen, where can people find you?
You may find me on Twitter at Translatosaurus for pictures of my cat now that I'm done with Comic-Con.
Nice. Oh yeah, how was Comic-Con? We didn't even get to
talk
about
about
that.
we didn't get to talk about that. It was it was a lot of fun. I didn't have my panel, but I did. I got to hang out with some of the Viz folks. Caleb was there again, so I got to hang out with him. I saw Jammer. I hung out with Jammer for an hour or two.
I saw the picture. Yeah.
Yeah, he was doing interviews and stuff with his crew at.
I missed that. I missed
at
the
LRM.
picture.
Yeah,
Now I
you have to go back and look on my Twitter feed at Translatosaurus on Twitter.
Good plug. Yeah. Cool. I have to get through all these cat pictures first. So while I'm doing that, Dan, where could people find you?
Twitter, if they want to. DANDOCK, Twitter. That's where I'll be sharing all of my articles and stuff. So yeah, look for me. It's a good time. And that's it.
Thank you, Dan. Joe, where can people find you?
They can find me on Twitter at JoeOnBoba. I mostly talk about games, animals, One Piece, that kind of thing.
Those are all good things. And you can find Joey. He's at Joey Weiser. He does Toho Yaro. Please check out his podcast. That's at tohoyaro.onepiecepodcast.com and wherever you get your podcast. And also Grant is at Grant the Thief on Twitter. Check him out. He just finished Marineford, and he doesn't know it, but he's about to get into a big flashback. So wish him the best of luck there. I'm sure, Joe, I know you have like a whole schedule for him as to when he's getting to what. Right? So we'll see. Follow him. Enjoy that. Ed, where can people find us?
Well, you are Zach_Logan on Twitter. I am Edward E. One Piece. I'm also at Weave Trailers. Check out the old trailers there. The podcast can be found at OnePiecePodcast.com, Twitter.com, YouTube.com, and Facebook.com/OnePiecePodcast. OnePiecePodcast@gmail.com is the email address. OnePiecePodcast is the Skype name. Please support us, Patreon.com/OnePiecePodcast. You can subscribe on SoundCloud, subscribe on Spotify, subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, or call us on our phone number, Zach.
And that phone number is 347-497-MAJI.
MAJI.
That phone number again, 347-497-6254. Call anytime.
Anytime.
With your questions, comments, theories, or, my family. Anyway. Thank you all for coming on the show. Thank you, Dan, for coming back on again, and Joe, and Grant, and Joey out there in the ether. Next week, Nate Ming will be on to talk about One Piece, Chapter 951. And I won't do the Zoro trivia that I put together. But we'll be back then. Until next week, my name is Zach.
My name is Ed.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Oh, yeah.
We'll see you next week, everyone. Goodbye.
All right, bye-bye.
So long.
Bye.
That was a Steve impression.
Bye.